Hello everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Straight Shootin' series. The date is May 11th, and we are joined by none other than Christian Cage. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, let's start out with the very beginning of your career. Why do you want to get into the wrestling business?
It's going back some time now. I grew up a huge wrestling fan, and growing up in Canada, we were exposed to a lot of different styles of wrestling. So we had obviously WWF at the time was the biggest thing on television, and what happened was I was skating at the local hockey rink growing up in Canada, and I tripped on a hole in the ice, and I went head first into the boards and broke my shoulder, and I had a break so high on my shoulder that they couldn't put a cast on it, so I had to have my arm in what's called a super sling, and of course I couldn't get nudged or bumped or anything like that, so I had to stay at home for like 8 weeks, and I had to do all my schoolwork and everything like that at home. So my brothers, I have 2 brothers, and they were both out playing and stuff on the weekends, and I'd be stuck in the house by myself, and I was just flipping through the channels one day, and I stumbled upon wrestling, and I was like, I didn't know what it was, but I was instantly hooked, and I think we got that on the Buffalo station from Buffalo, New York, since Toronto's only about an hour and a half away. And after the hour, I said, man, I got to see that again. I was flipping through the channels, and it came on the Canadian station, and that they used to film it in Brantford, Ontario. And so I got 2 hours of it, and it was crazy. And I was like, man. Then after that, I was flipping through the channels again. I found All Star Wrestling from BC, from Vancouver, British Columbia, and it was just like And then later on that afternoon, 5 o'clock, we got international wrestling from Montreal, and I ended up started watching every Saturday. My whole day just consisted of watching different wrestling, and during the week we would start to get AWA on Wednesdays. So after school on Wednesdays, I'd rush home to watch AWA, and we'd also get Calgary Stampede Wrestling. So we were exposed to a lot of different styles and different territories and things like that. So I was just bitten by the wrestling bug, and I was I just loved it, and ever since I can remember, I wanted say to my parents, I said, I think I'm either going to be a professional hockey player or a professional wrestler. Those are the 2 things I'm going to do. And my parents were like, yeah, that's great, you should do it. And that's basically how I set my sights out on becoming a wrestler.
Who are some of your favorites growing up?
Favorites, actually, I remember, obviously loved Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. I loved all the good guys at first, and then as I started to get a little older, I loved like Ricky Steamboat, and I really appreciated guys that I thought could really go in there and go like Steamboat. And then as the years I started to get a little bit older, I started to really be finding myself more entertained by guys like Savage and Ted DiBiase, Cowboy Bob Orton, who I just thought was unbelievable. Who was an unbelievable technician in the ring, and I was just like guys like that. Those were the guys that I really followed and admired. And then later on, watching Stampede Wrestling, there were guys like Bret and Owen Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Dynamite Kid, and Jerry Morrow, Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen there, and Johnny Smith, guys like that, that I really love to watch.
Cool. And then you pretty much grew up with Adam Copeland, who's better known as Edge.
Yeah.
Was it wrestling the bond between you two?
Yeah, it was pretty much the bond. I lived in a small town for the first years of my life. There was maybe 7,000 or 8,000 people in the town that I lived in, and then I moved to the big city of Orangeville, Ontario, which is just outside of Toronto, which was probably about 14,000, 15,000 people. So it was a little bit bigger. And then I moved there in the 6th grade, and of course didn't know anybody, and was shy and everything like that. And then I remember I had this. I'm sure people have heard the story before. I had a ninja throwing star that a friend of mine had given me a couple years before. So one day I had it at school, and during recess I was throwing this ninja star into trees, by myself, and kids were coming up, hey, what is that? What do you have? And so it's a ninja throwing star. So next thing I know, everybody throw the ninja star into trees, and everyone wants to be my friend now that I have this ninja star. I'm like, oh well, I was gonna sell it, just trying to get conversation. But, I'll buy it, blah blah blah. So Adam was like the highest bidder. He was gonna buy it, and And so after school, I was like, maybe we should go, throw in some more trees. So after school, I went out and hung out. We were throwing in the trees, and I decided I didn't want to sell it after all. But I let him use it whenever he wanted to. But that's pretty much how we became friends. And then, of course, getting to talk more. One of us had mentioned something about wrestling, and it turns out the other one was just as big a fan as the other one. And we both were collecting the wrestling action figures. We had the ring. We basically the same thing. Our whole Saturdays consumed of. We spent our Saturdays consumed with wrestling. So that's how that friendship started to blossom.
Did you guys both decide to actually go into the training together?
Yeah, it was funny because growing up in Canada, and like I said, we were about 40 to 45 minutes away from Toronto, and we would whenever we could go down, and my parents would take us down and drop us off at the old Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and we would watch WWF shows, and we were just, like I said, loved wrestling. It was the time where they were there at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. So we were going quite a bit, and just any wrestling show we'd go to, we would go to. And I remember there was this promotion with I can't remember the name of the promotion, but it was the guy that wrestled the bear and the Canadian Wild Man, and he used to in his thing he would wrestle a bear. So they were coming through town, and we were like, man, we gotta go to this wrestling. And so we went, and for whatever reason we wouldn't sit together for some reason. I was sitting on one side of the ring, he was sitting on the other side, and we had like two sets of different friends, and we caught eyes from across the ring, and we both kind of pointed at the ring, and this was like intermission, so we both slid in the ring. Next thing you know, we're hitting the ropes and clothesline and axe handles and stuff, and the crowd started to cheer for us. And then security came running down, and they dragged us out of the ring and basically said, if we motion towards the ring again, they were going to kick us out. So luckily they didn't. We watched the rest of the show, and after that we were just like, man, it was so awesome to be in the ring, and we're going to be wrestlers. I just know we're going to be wrestlers. And every day after school, whatever it was, on the weekends, we just walk around town and we just talk. And sometimes I remember there was this baseball field, and they had in the outfield the home run fence. It wasn't like a regular fence. It was made of this like plastic orange fence that had some give to it. And for some reason, I think I hit it, and it like bounced like wrestling ropes. I was like, that's like hitting the ropes. So next thing you know, we're both running off and hitting the ropes, throwing each other off this fence like ropes, and we had this little corner, so that was like our wrestling ring. So we'd go down there on the weekends, and we'd wrestle in the grass and use the orange fence as our ropes, and so now I kind of lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Just wrestling, with the fence and everything on the baseball field, and jumping in the ring and wrestling. And
jumping in the ring, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, we, and then the next summer after that, it wasn't the bear wrestling, it was another one came by, and I remember Paul Diamond was on the show, and we talked to Paul Diamond for a little bit, and we knew him from watching AWA, which we got there, so we were telling him about all the things that he was doing with Bad Company and against the Midnight Rockers and all this stuff, and he was really nice, took pictures with us, and he was, I think, pretty happy that we knew everything that was going on with his stuff. And I remember we found out that there was a local promoter involved, and he ran a little motel in our town, so we went down and hung out, and we met him, and we were just like, look, we just want to come by and do whatever we can for the show. We'd like to maybe set set the ring up or set some chairs up or something. So we said, oh yeah, come by. So we went by, and next thing you know, we're lugging these chairs in, and we're lugging the ring in, and my little brother was tagging along with us. So we all went, and we spent our day setting this whole wrestling show up for him. And at the end of the day, I'll never forget it. It was like before he let the fans in, he was just like, all right, why don't you guys roll in the ring, get in there for 5 minutes. So we're like, oh man, so we rolled in, of course.
This was no training or anything?
No training, anything, just what we saw on TV. And I remember I climbed up, and my brother was facing Adam, and I called his name, said, Josh. He turned around. When he turned around, I hit a flying body press off the top, and to my brother's credit, he grabbed me and took a sweet bump, and he wrapped his, didn't know anything about tucking his chin or anything, so his head snapped off the mat, and he was out cold. Adam dropped down, made the 3 count, and so that was like our first taste of getting in there, and but for as long as I can remember, we wanted to be wrestlers, and like I said, it consumed us, and we talked about it all the time, and like I said, we'd sit around and talk about, okay, well, this is going to be our tag team name, and this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to get into the wrestling business. And we had it all figured out, that how we were going to do it. As soon as we were done high school, we were going to become wrestlers, and we pretty much did actually after high school, and then we Adam had won an essay writing contest to a wrestling school in Toronto, run by Sweet Daddy Siki and Ron Hutchison, and he won the essay contest and ended up getting trained for free. And of course, I didn't have that kind of money. It was $1,500 at the time, and so I ended up going on to college after. And then when I got a student loan for my tuition at college, and I actually took the money from my student loan to pay my wrestling school. And then I would during the week I go to college, and on the weekends I would go down to train Saturdays and Sundays to wrestle. That's how it all got underway.
Now, did you guys do anything as teenagers, like come up with any moves or names for moves?
Oh yeah, we had. I was trying to remember.
Or like anything that made its way into like WWE one day.
Well,
or...
what's funny is we would actually in high school we had at our school there was like 2 different lunch periods. There was like an early lunch and a later lunch, and of course I had the early lunch, and all my friends had the later lunch, and one of my buddies, he was actually he's a wrestler now too. He wrestles on Independence as the original Sin is his name, but he's a really gifted artist, and he during his art school, he would not doing his assignments, he would write up a wrestling flyer and draw little pictures of each of us, and we all had our own wrestling monikers, and he'd come, and at lunchtime he'd tape it up on the lockers. We all had a row of lockers, and then you would all come and check it out and see who you're wrestling that day. And then we go to this little there was this little courtyard area. It was indoor courtyard, and of course, like I said, they were all in the same lunch, so I would do my lunch, and then I had math right after that. So I'd go to the math class, and of course about 10-15 minutes in the math class I'd put my hand up and go to the bathroom, or I had some excuse every day. We got to the point where the teacher was just like, I put my hand up, she just go. So I'd leave, and of course I come back with 5-10 minutes left in the class, and I would meet my buddies there, and we'd wrestle and do every match that was on the card, and do interviews and all that sort of thing. And we started getting little crowds around to watch us and stuff, and other guys wanted to come and join in and stuff like that. And it was fun, and needless to say, I failed math that year and had to do it again next semester. But so that's the kind of stuff we did.
When what was your first impressions when you really started officially training, like taking bumps and all that kind of stuff?
It was funny because I guess I kind of had a little leg up on some guys, because Adam had already been training at that point for about a year, I would say. So I would go down with him sometimes, and I would just sit in the class and just watch. And at the time, I think when I first started to train, I think he had 3 or 4 matches at that point, and I would go to his shows and watch his matches, and he was at Bayface, we cheer for him, he would get into it with him and stuff like that. And, so I kind of had a little bit of insight as to already what the training, not physically feeling it, but seeing it, what they go through and how the training went and all that sort of thing. So I kind of knew what to expect going into it. And but man, it was like, I remember my first bump, and the ring that we trained in, the place we trained was like was something out of a Rocky movie. It was literally a condemned building, and it was a boxing gym during the week, and it was a boxing ring, so the ring was bulletproof, and there was pipes with water dripping out of them, and sludge running down the walls and all that sort of thing, and it was great atmosphere to train. In the summertime it was hot as hell, and in the wintertime it was freezing, and it was just a great time, and I just remember my first bump, man, when I fell back, it just knocked all the wind out of me, and I was just laying there for a second as I'm getting up slow. The trainer's like, Ron Hutchison, he's like, get up, do it again. So I was like, boom, do it again. And of course, they notice I always wear elbow pads, and I think it's a mental thing now with me, because after that, I remember, getting ready to go to school on the Monday after training Saturday, Sunday, I looked down and I had this bruise on my arm, and it was about literally like a circle that went up like this, and it was just all purple right here on both sides, just from breaking the fall when you take a bump. And I was just, man, maybe I should start wearing some elbow pads. So I went out and got some elbow pads, and this has kind of been a crutch ever since. That's why it's kind of, like I said, it's a mental thing. I have to wear them.
And that was all at Sully's gym?
It's all at Sully's gym in Toronto, yeah.
Okay. Was there ever a time that you came close to quitting?
No.
Never an option?
Yeah, never an option. I just, I said I loved wrestling, and it was, I said it was a great time, and just everybody in the class got along. We all had a great bond, and we all looked out for each other, all helped each other, and nobody tried to outshine the other one or anything like that. There was a good little group of guys there, and listen, we had really good training classes, and I remember at the end of each class, we get there some days and the trainer would be like, look guys, I didn't like how last weekend went. I don't even know if you guys are gonna get in the ring today. And we just go through these, we'd go outside in the winter and run around the stadium that was next door 5 times, run the stairs, do different drills and stuff like that, like cardiovascular drills and stuff. And I remember being so mad and thinking, man, I just want to be in the ring, Then of course, at the end he'd be like, okay, jump in, you're a heel, you're baby face, 15 minutes, you're over, go. And that's how we learned how to wrestle. There was no, working out spots or anything like that. Man, that's the best way to me. It's the best way to learn. And that's what teaches you to think on your feet, which in this business is one of the most important things.
So would you say that today, just changing the subject a little bit, that too much is maybe called in the ring as opposed, or called on the back?
I don't. I mean, I think some things. I think that you. I think it's just the nature of where the business has gone, especially with television being with the products having television and things like that moving so fast that you get conditioned that sometimes you only have a 4-minute match on television, but you have to get all these things in, and when you have to, when you have a B-roll and like maybe a promo segment or so whatever it is that's in there, that sometimes makes it hard to in that amount of time. To just go out there and call a match. I know it sounds weird, hard to call a 4-minute match, but sometimes it's like it's just hard to do that, especially when there's TV time involved and things like that. And I just think it's the direction of the business, and I think guys would definitely learn better if they were trained that way, where it's just like there's no talking about, just go out and do it, and that's how you become good and get a flow and learn things like that. And of course there's certain situations where you have to do that. It's just that's the way it is, and like I said, that's the way that the business moves. But sometimes even on TV you get these longer matches where they're like 15, 20, 25 minutes, and you can just go out there with a finish. Just before I left WWE, I remember working with Benoit, and we had like 23 minutes on TV, and we went out with a finish, and the rest was done in the ring, and it was a good match. So it just depends, like I said, everything. It's just that nowadays the situations are so much different. But I think that, like I said, it's just the nature of the business now and the direction. But I think it's good for guys to know how to do both. Okay. It's important.
Okay. Going back, where did your name originate from?
Yeah, it was funny because my name was, I was a buddy of mine whose name is Keith Assoon, who wrestled as Zach Wilde, who was very instrumental actually, and to me just a great talent. And the best thing about him was his mind for the business. Great psychology guy. Just unfortunately didn't have the quote unquote look for wrestling. He was short and not a bodybuilding physique, so, but other than that, he had, obviously he had everything, and like I said, I remember driving with him, and I would 9 times out of 10 I would drive to my training sessions with him, because at the time Adam was he was coming, but he was also, we were going to college, we were living away from home, and so he had outside of part-time jobs. So some weekends he would, he'd been training at that point for a year and a half, so some weekends he would be away, working, and or at least one of the days of the weekend. So I would drive down with Keith, and I would just remember asking him questions, picking his brain, talking to him about psychology of wrestling, and he knew all these things, and he taught me about it. And so when I was getting ready for my first match, it was actually going to be a tag team. No, sorry, my second match. My first match was with was against him, but it was like my second or third match, and I didn't really have a name. And let me change that. I ended up having my first match. We knew we had this booking in a month or two down the road, so I hadn't had my first match yet, but we were sitting there and we knew that I was going to be teaming with him, and we were sitting on his couch in his house at the time. We were just shooting shit, talking about the show that we were going to do in a couple months in Detroit, and he was just like, I was like, man, I said, you got a name? I said, I don't have a name, so we're sort of throwing these names out, and this and that. And I always had like the name Cage. Like Nicolas Cage was one of my favorite actors, and I just thought the last name Cage was like, man, it's a cool last name. And then I love that last name like that. That'd be cool. And then so I had that in my head already from before, that might be a cool name. And then I was throwing these different names out. He's like, that sucks. Nah, that's not good. And Extra, the TV show Extra was on television kind of playing in the background, and they were doing a story on Christian Slater. And I just kind of glanced at the TV and saw it, and I said, what about Christian Cage? And he goes, that kind of sucks. And I went, yeah, I guess you're right. He goes, but it'll work for this show. We can always change it after. It's good for now. So that's we ended up, using that name, and it stuck. And that's kind of how the name happened. And then now later on, moving to WWF, or I was getting ready to come in as a member of the Brood, and they just didn't like the two names. They just wanted one name. And I had said, well, what about Cage? Just the name Cage. And they thought they liked Christians, the overtones of that brought to a gothic-y kind of gimmick like the Brood. And of course I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. And, at the time you just happy to be there and want to do whatever it is that you can do to help and to get rolling there. So that's kind of how we dropped the name Cage off.
Okay. Now Rhino was back then with you too. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what was he like back then?
Yeah, Rhino, he hasn't changed much, man. He's funny. He's he's one of a kind, that's for sure. But he's a really good friend and got a heart of gold. And I love the guy. And it was funny because we were at the time going down starting to work in Detroit, and I didn't even realize him and I broke in pretty much around the same time. I think he had I was going down there and it was my second match, and it was like his third match. So we were doing the match that I was talking about, the tag match, and I remember being in the back and watching the other matches, and I heard this guy Terry Richards. I saw him go out, and I was like, man, he's got a different look to him. He looks. And he was just intense in the ring, and even back then he had this, the way that he moved and stuff was just so different. I was just like, I remember sitting there with the other guys from our little faction from Toronto, and I was like, man, this guy's good. And I was like, how many matches? I think he's only like his third or fourth match. And I was like, man, this guy's got a lot of talent. He bumped like Chris, but remember just how fast he bumped, how good he moved in the ring. He was so fluent, just for a guy. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's so thick. And later on, we started getting booked out in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and doing these tours and stuff like that. And I remember Tony Candela, the promoter, had called one of us, and we were just like, do you know of any other guys? We need a big guy on the tour. Do you know of anybody? And so we were just talking about it, and I said, well, what about that guy, Terry from Detroit? He seems like a really cool guy, and he's really good, so maybe we could have some good matches with him and stuff like that. And we're like, yeah, let's give him a call. So we got his number, we called him up. Of course, he jumped on board and he wanted to come. And never forget, the first flight out to Winnipeg, we got off the plane, and the promoter, Tony Candela, was standing there. And he's this little Italian guy, and he walks up and he grabs me at the back of the thing and goes, I thought you said this guy was a giant. And I said, giant? I said, I never said he was a giant. I said he was big. He goes, you said he was a giant. I said, I never said he was a giant. I said he was big. And he goes, okay, he is big though. And I said, yeah. Then after the first show, he came back to me. He was like, this guy can come back whenever he wants. He's great. And he would go out there and continuously go on tours, and that's how we just kind of became closer. And anything he heard of, for us to possibly get on, he would call us. Anything the same with on our end, and he would come up and work in Ontario. We would go over and work in Michigan, and with Detroit being a border town, we would if we had a show there on Sunday, we 9 times out of 10 go up on a Friday night and crash at his brother's house. He had a room at his brother's house, and we got along great with his brother, and we'd go and stay there for the weekend. And at the time he worked at a powerhouse gym, so he would take us in, let us tan and work out and all that fun stuff, give us protein bars and stuff like that. And so we'd spend the weekend, and then Sunday we'd do the show, and then right after that we'd hop back over the border and meet Scott D'Amore in Windsor. If he wasn't on the show, we'd meet him in Windsor, have a little bite at Casey's Roadhouse, and then drive the 4 hours home on Sunday night. So we'd just make a weekend out of it and have a good time, and that's how our friendship came to be with Rhino.
Cool. Now, one of your first early feuds, and I guess this might have been the first time you worked with a real veteran, was Rick Martel, and he was teaming with Don Callis, right? Yeah. Was Don Callis new to the business then? Or
no. Don had been working for years at the time. He was it's funny because Don Callis, he always had that kind of he always had a presence about him, and he always carried himself like a star, and like he had presence. And I remember the first time I ever met him, I was kind of intimidated by him because he was just like I said, he was like this kind of carried himself like a champion, and I was like, but turns out we have the very similar sense of humor, very dry, very sarcastic, and I would just start cracking him up, making him laugh, and he kind of the persona of that kind of went away, and we became really good friends. And he was partly with Tony Condello. He was helping book the shows in Winnipeg, and they were doing some TVs and things like that. And I think I'd only been in the business maybe 4 or 5 months, and they did a whole 2 weeks worth of like spot shows and at the end a couple TV tapings, and had a great roster at the time. They had Don, had Bad News, Jerry Morrow, Johnny Smith, all guys that I grew up watching that I was just like couldn't believe that I was meeting these guys and working with them. And Jericho had come out. He would just had come back from Mexico and Japan, and he came out for the TV tapings. Lance Storm was there. It was the first time I met him, and actually wrestled a singles match with him on the TV. And funny story about that, because I was like, I'll get to that in a second, but so yeah, that's basically how it was. And so I got to work with those guys, and then later on, I fast forward a few years. I guess my first significant, actually I worked with him on a spot show in Boston. I worked with Rick Martel, and we had a good match. And the reason why I know it was a good match or I remember it being a good match, as good as it could have been, because the promoter bought this ring and had never sent it up before. And he was going to run this whole huge show, and he spent tons of money to bring all these people in, all these names, everything. And he liked me for some reason, so he wanted me to work with Rick Martel. And I remember when he set the ring up, he realized some pieces didn't fit properly and all that, and the ropes didn't fit, so the ropes were droopy, so you couldn't hit the ropes. So when he's like, give me some time. So we're like out there working 15-20 minutes in a ring without being able to hit the ropes. So we're doing things corner to corner, and just mat wrestling and doing things. And of course, like going back to setting up spots and stuff. And when that kind of situation, you just can't do it. So we just went out and worked and had some fun and asked him questions, learned a lot. He was a really great guy. And a year or so later, he started the team with Don Callis, and they were going to do a game called the Supermodels, where they didn't end up ever happening. But to get ready, they were going to go to WWF at the time. They were going to go there and do the tag team thing, but it kind of fell through on Rick's end. He didn't end up going, but Don ended up going and brought in as a member of the Truth Commission. But leading up to that, we were they wanted to get ready, and they knew that Adam and I were teaming, and we were working on the East Coast for a guy named Emile Dupree, who's Rene Dupree's father. And the last month of the tour, they were going to come on for the last month and work us in the matches. So that was my first string of working with basically Rick Martel every night for a month, and Don Callis, and we had really good matches with those guys. And like I said, Rick was a really super guy, and had good matches with him and learned a lot from him. And he taught Adam and I quite a bit, and especially in the ring, and just listened to his stories and stuff like that. And to me, that's how you learn about the business and where it went to, and how you got to where you are now. Just listening to guys that have done it and been there. And I always like listening to guys like him. Bad News was another huge influence on my career. And the first time I ever went to Japan was with him and Jerry Morrow, and it was the same thing. They saw something in Adam and I, and wanted to bring us over to Japan with them. And like I said, we hit it off, and we became great friends with those guys. And like I said, like I said, Bad News and Jerry both were big influences on my career, and thank them a lot for where I am now. So, but I'm kind of gotten off the beaten path here.
Yeah, now you covered it all right there. Actually, you covered my next question, which was, were those veterans helpful to you?
Oh yeah, no, they were. You know, like I said, they were. You know, I mean, and the great thing is about guys like that, and it's like guys that have been there, have had the experience, and different styles, different personalities, and I was like a sponge. I tried to be like a sponge. Just any information they can give me, I felt like I could use. And so I would ask them questions, and I was just like, you know, I'm not, you know what I mean, and at the risk of, you know, I mean, I didn't want to sound like a mark, but it was like, you know, I would ask them, and the thing is, it's like, if you really look at it, they didn't even think of it like that. They were just saw, I think, a hungry young kid that wanted to learn and wanted to be the best that he could be, and really wanted to make it in the business, and I think that's why they maybe didn't mind helping me either and giving me advice, and like I said, you know, Jerry and Bad News taking me to Japan with them, and stuff like that. So it was really, you know, like I said, a fun time in my career, a fun time in my life, like just trying to build to this point, and the people that I was meeting along the way, guys that I grew up idolizing and watching, and next thing you know, I'm, you know, sitting at dinner with them or driving in a car or, you know, wrestling across the ring from them. You know what I mean? It's just mind blowing to me, and funny. The Lance Storm story was funny, is because and Lance today, Lance is one of my best friends in the world, and he's one of the most honest, trustworthy guys I've ever met, and he's but at the time, you know, I think he was he'd come back and he was working over in for war in Japan, and he was, you know, used to these, you know, working Budokan Hall and, you know, Korakuen Hall, all these places that, you know, sat, you know, thousands of people, and he comes back and now he's in northern Manitoba wrestling in front of 300, maybe 400 if we're lucky people, and we got to the TV, and he found out that we were working, and that they were doing some kind of angle with Lance retiring after the match and taking his boots off, whatever. So Lance was gonna have to put me over, and I don't think Lance was too happy about it, because we still joke about it to this day. But I remember going to him and just, like, you know, out of respect, you know, he was, like I said, I've only been in the business 4 or 5 months, and I knew he was in the business for a few years at the time, and so I went up to him and I was like, Lance, I said, you know, I'm really, you know, excited to be working with you. And he's like, yeah, thanks. And I was like, you know, is there anything, you know, you want to do? And he's like, I'll do whatever. And then he's like, anything special you do? I was like, I said, well, you know, I like to do this, and I tell him things I like to do. And I was like, I like to do this tilt-a-whirl slam. And, well, you know, I showed him how I do it, you know, and he goes, just give me this look, like Lance said, like, his expression never changes, but it changes. He's just like, one of these, and I was like, is that okay? He's like, what are you, 280 pounds? And I was just like, what is this guy's problem? So I was like, I shot right back. I was like, are you? And he's like, this looks fine. We'll do the move then if you want to do it. And so we ended up doing it. We ended up having a good match. And then I never saw Lance again for a couple of years after that. And then the next time we met, he was just like, hey, what's going on? And it was just like, it was totally different. And like I said, I don't know what was going on with him on that tour, but whether it was just like, you know, he just didn't know who this young guy was, and this and that. But you know, like I said, he later on became my along with Hurricane, became my riding partner for years in WWE, and we had a lot of laughs, and he's, like I said, he's one of my best friends.
Cool. All right, from there you ended up at a WWE training camp. How did that happen?
Yeah, WWE training camp was like, what happened there was, after at this point it was probably at least 4 years, maybe a little more. I'd been working independents and stuff like that, and I was going everywhere, man. I was like, if there was like a show in Tennessee that would pay me $75 and give me gas money, in my mind I thought there may be somebody at this show. You never know. And I was just like, man, I'd go anywhere. And it's like, I just wanted to get my name out there, work as many different places, you know. And at, you know, the back of these wrestling magazines, they would see the different, you know, they'd have the different shows from all over the country. And I wanted my name to be all over these things, not to see my name in the magazines, but let people know that I was working and I was out there and I was doing different things and I was in all these different places. And you know, the indie scene now is a little different than it was back then. It was, you know, I remember going to indie shows and I would talk to people and I'd be like, hey man, you know, where are you from? Where do you work? And blah blah blah. And you should give me your number. I'll give you a call. And I had this, you know, it was before cell phones or any, you know, these, you know, PDAs or anything like that. So it was like, you know, I had all my numbers written on a big sheet of paper and I write them really small, and I had all my wrestling numbers on this sheet of paper. So I get their number and give them a call. Hey, you got any work in your area? Whatever, blah blah blah. And I would, you know, boom, I'd jump in the car and drive down. So I was going all over these different places, and said, eventually, Bad News and Jerry started taking me over to Japan, and I started getting a good buzz that I was, all over working these different indies. I was down, working in Delaware, I was working in Pennsylvania, I was working in New York, in Michigan, all over Canada, and started to work overseas. So I was starting to get a little bit of buzz, get some things and these little snippets in these magazines and stuff. This was before the internet stuff, and these internet sites, letting everybody know what's going on, and all these different independent shows. But I mean, there was nothing like that when I was breaking in. It was now I sound like an old timer, but it was so I remember we were I wasn't booked on this one particular show. It was in Ajax, Ontario, and Adam had wrestled on the show, and just so happens that Carl DeMarco, who's now the Canadian president of WWE, wasn't far from his house. So I said, hey, I'll go by and see if there's any talent at the show. And he saw Adam on the show, and he said, man, I really like this guy, and blah blah blah. And so there was a house show in Hamilton, Ontario, a few months after that, and I guess a couple guys ended up having some trouble at the border and couldn't get across, so they were short a couple bodies. So Carl somehow got somebody's numbers who ended up calling me. Somebody ended up getting and asking, how do I get in touch with Adam? Excuse me, they want to use him for this house show. And I was like, man. So I called him up. I said, look, dude. I said, these people are, calling him. Here's his number. I think he had his number, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get in touch with him. And I was like, they want to book you on the show. You need to call him. So he called them and called me back and I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to go down. I don't know who I'm working with, but they want me to work on this house show. So he went down. He ended up working with Bob Holly, and they had a good match, and it was the opening match. And that's kind of how he got his foot in the door. And then, he would keep in contact with Carl after that. And a year or two went by, and then, Bret Hart was starting to train some guys out at his house, one of those guys being tested. And he was, at the time when he hurt his knee and had to miss, I want to say 6 weeks or something with a knee injury. He had his knee scoped or something. And so Carl, had called Adam and said, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but they get this, Bret's training some guys out of his house. He's home, for once he's home, and he said, I think you should get out there and wrestle him and let him see you, and see what that's all about, and let him see that you're talented and stuff like that. You never know what might happen. It might be a good opportunity. And I was like, well, I can't really just show up. And Carl's like, well, here's Bret's number. Call him, tell him who you are, tell him I told you to call him. So I was like struggling with it. He's like, screw it, I'll call him. So he called. And Bret's like, oh yeah, you should come on out, man. Come on out. Yeah, I'd love to watch you. So of course, Adam at the time, we were broke, had no money, nothing. So he was, so he didn't know what to do. So being, I guess he somehow scrounged the money enough for a plane ticket because he can't drive to Cal. Well, you can drive, but it's hard when you don't have a car. But it's about a 3-day drive from Toronto to Calgary, 2 or 3 days. So he scrounged up enough money to get an airline ticket and went to had called Johnny Smith. And Johnny Smith said, when are you coming in? I'll pick you up at the airport. You stay at my house. I'll drop you off at Bret's place every day. So that's what he did. He went and stayed at Johnny Smith's. Every day he'd drop him off, and ended up, Bret, when he went back, I guess he had wanted to get the other guys that he was training at his place. He wanted to get them developmental deals, because they were starting to do, just at the time, they were starting to do these developmental deals. At the time, I think were $200 a week. But, it was a steady check. So, I mean, the thought of that was really exciting. And so Adam went out there, and Bret's like, yeah, I think you're really good. And, what do you got coming up? And he said, oh, we're just about to leave for the East Coast of Canada, and I'm going to work there, for 4 months, whatever it was. And he goes, okay. He goes, go out there. He said, get your ring time, work hard, and keep in touch with me and call me when you're done at the end of the summer. So Leo Burke was training at Bret's place. When Bret was on the road, he was training the guys. And a legendary East Coast wrestler, also wrestled in Japan quite a bit, stuff like that. Great guy, really nice guy, really great wrestler. And so I went out there, and it was a time where Adam and I were teaming, and Bret had a couple of his guys booked on these tours. So so Leo, being from the East Coast, wanted to come home and visit, and I guess check out his guys and see how they were doing. So he came, and I guess he saw Adam on a tag match, and he kind of pulled Adam aside after, and was like, who's the guy you're teaming with? And Adam's like, oh, that's Jay. And he's like, he said, oh, well, he's good. I like him. Well, you guys could tag, blah blah blah. And then so he's like, oh yeah, he's good, and that kind of thing. And then Adam would call Brett like every month and just let him know what was up. And I guess he had called Brett, and I guess Brett had brought it up to him and said, hey, who's the guy you're teaming with out there? I guess Leo had told him about it, and I was like, well, that's Jay. We train together, and we're good friends. And team was, oh, that's cool. And then Adam's like saw the opportunity. He was like, hey, I'm planning on coming back out just to train and keep in ring shape. After this tour's over, do you mind if Jay comes in? He goes, no, tell him to come along. So I was like, man. So he told me, I was like, man, it's awesome. So we, of course, once we were done there, we went out to Calgary, and Brett wasn't home much. He was on the road at that time, man. He was gone. I only saw him a couple times. I was there for a few weeks, and I saw him a couple times. Then we went straight from there to Winnipeg to do a tour in Winnipeg, and Adam got a call that Brett had got him a developmental contract. And then as soon as this tour was over, he was going to have to fly straight from there to Stanford and meet with the guys and get in the ring and do a workout and make sure that he was on, he was good enough to warrant a developmental deal. So that's what he did. And they signed him. And
started any jealousy or anything?
No. I was definitely not jealous. I was happy for him, and I think it was like I said, our group was kind of tight knit, so there wasn't really any jealousy or anything like that. We all really supported each other, and if one of us succeeded, we kind of all succeeded, and that's the way we saw it. And if one guy got a contract, hopefully it would, everybody would benefit. Not that it was like, oh, we're gonna ride this guy's coattails or anything like that, but it was like, hey, one of us made it, and hopefully, the rest of us can follow suit, and it was all of our goals. So, like I said, we were just happy that one of our guys had gotten their foot in the door, and so what happened was fast forward a few months, they were doing it was actually the weekend of the infamous Montreal screw job. We were at the show, and they had called Adam and said, bring your gear, probably have you in a dark match or something, and come to the pay-per-view, watch the pay-per-view, check it out, and then come to TV the next day in Ottawa, and then they would tape Raw the next night for the next week. So the next night after that was Cornwall, Ontario. And, so we went to the pay-per-view, and we were like, we were watching the show, and I remember we were standing down this little side hallway, and the finish of the match happened, and we were just kind of looked at each other, that was a little weird, huh? Like, yeah. So we go back, we're just kind of standing there, like, just kind of, happy to be there, we're just like, just off to the side, minding our own business. We'd always been taught by our trainer, eyes and ears open, mouth shut. So that's what we live by that rule. We were just flies on the wall, just hanging out, just trying to take everything in. And Carl DeMarco came up and goes, yeah, there's some stuff going on, guys. It's probably better if you take off. And we're like, okay. So we didn't know what was going on. We just left, and so we.
So you didn't see any of the backstage stuff?
No, we didn't see anything, man. We didn't even know really what he was talking about. We were just like, oh, okay. We just didn't want to cause any trouble. We were just out of there, So we were, we were gone, and then the next night we went to Ottawa, and of course, things were a little crazy backstage, and then Adam had a dark match against a former CFL football player that named Glenn Kalka, and the next night. And I drove that weekend because Adam didn't have a car at the time, and so I asked to borrow my mom's car, and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna bring my gear just in case. He's like, yeah, throw it in the trunk. You never know. So I threw it in the trunk, and sure enough, that the second night of TV in Cornwall, we were standing there, and I can't remember who it was that came up and said, did you have gear? And I was like, yeah, I brought my gear. I said, okay, because we'll probably have you work with Adam tonight in a dark match. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I was so excited, and of course it was funny because that arena, at the time I looked out and it seemed like the biggest arena in the world. It felt like there was 20,000 people in the building, and it was huge, and it was the first really big crowd I'd ever worked in front of. And in Japan I wrestled in front of 1,500, 2,000 people, whatever, at Corkin Hall, which was a great crowd. But I look out there and I just see people all over, and I was like, man, this place is huge. And then, of course, going back years later, it was probably seated 3,500, 4,000 people, and it was like, man, this place is small. But it's like, for me, it was a huge thrill, and went out and had a dark match. We had a pretty good match, and of course, like I said, everything was kind of going on. And they were, I guess, redoing stuff because of all that had happened in the previous days. And I don't think anybody saw the match except for Jim Cornette, who ran up to us after the match, like, guys, that was a great match. I really enjoyed it. And, put it over, and I was like, we were like, oh, thanks, appreciate it. This was like in November of '97, I believe, and he's like, yeah, it was great, just really, made us feel really good about the match, and he was excited about it, which was nice to see. And then I just remember that was November '97, and then like late February, early March of '98. I just got a phone call out of the blue from Jim Cornette, and he was just like, he said, hey, just, wanted to call and tell you that, I didn't forget about you, that I saw your match in Cornwall back in November, and here we are in March. I was like, really? He said, yeah, he goes, I thought you guys had a great match, and I think you have some talent, and, we're starting to do these training camps at the head office, and I don't know when, I don't know how, just, I'm going to try my best to get you on one, because I think you can do some good things here, and, just make sure you're ready. Just keep doing what you're doing. I was like, cool. I said, if you don't mind, I can have your number. Can I call you, just let you know, just check in and let you know what I'm up to? He goes, yeah, for sure, please do that. So I took his number, and so I've just really motivated me to get out there and work and do everything I could just to make sure I was in the best possible position when the time came that I'd be able to hit a home run. And I would call him every month. Just say, hey, just checking in, just want to let you know what I'm doing, who I've been working with, where I've been working, he'd say, no news yet, kid, just, I'm still pushing for you, and, he goes, it's going to happen, just be patient. I said, okay, I appreciate it. And then, so we already had a, pretty good bond and stuff like that, I felt, and just that way that continued, and then late one night I went to the gym when I came home, and I was living with my parents, and I came home, there was a note on the table that said, Jim Cornette called to call him back. It doesn't matter what time. It was like 11:30 at night. I was like, man. So I call him up, and this was like, I want to say June. It was June, I think it was June. And called him back, and he's like, yes, it was his answering machine. I'm like, damn. So I started leaving him a message, and he picks up the phone, goddamn kid, where have you been, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm sorry. I said, I just got your message. And he's like, listen, I got you on a camp. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, we're going to bring you down and all this. And, really, I was like, man, I was just so excited. He goes, I'll give you a call back tomorrow with all the details. I was like, awesome, thanks so much. You don't know how much this means to me. And he's like, I know, don't worry about it. Just, don't embarrass me when you get there. Make me proud. And I was like, I will, don't worry about it. So then, the next day he calls back with some bad news, and he was just like, unfortunately, he goes, I've got to, unfortunately, you've been bumped off the camp. And I was like, I kind of thought he was half ribbing at first. I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I'm going to try my best to get you on the next one. I was like, oh, he's serious. And I'm like, what happened? Something that I did? He goes, no, it's nothing you did. He goes, it's strictly a favor, like a political favor. Somebody had pushed for these other two guys, and there's no doubt in my mind that you're more talented than them, but it's just the way that it works out sometimes. You're going to get your chance. I've been assured that at some point we will be able to bring you down, and just be calm. Don't let it mess with your head or anything like that. Just be ready. And I said, okay, thanks. I was like, of course, I was a little, deflated after that. And I was like, man, a million things run through your head. It's like, man, did I really do something? Like, did I screw something up? Did somebody there not like me? And it's like, all these things start going through your head, and then I just, all I can do is do what I do, So I just kept my bookings and stuff, and sure enough, Jim called me a couple weeks later, and he's like, got you on the next camp. This time you're not getting bumped off it. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And then he called me with some flight information. He said, look, this is when the camp's going to be. It's going to be from Sunday to Sunday, and told me the exact date. I can't remember the exact date, but he said, and I was like, I have a little bit of a problem. And he said, well, what's the problem? I said, I have a show that I'm doing in Delaware the night before. And I was working for ECWA, a guy named Jim Kettner, and I said, Jim's been really good to me. He said he's, at the time I think I was getting paid $150, which was my best by far best payoff that I was getting anywhere. And I would drive to Buffalo from Toronto, and he would fly me to Philadelphia from Buffalo. So it was the only place I was getting flown in, and I was a big part of his show. And I just said, look, I'm an important part of this guy's show, and it's kind of I don't want to put him in a bad spot, and I'm really concerned because he's, like I said, he's treated me really good, and I really don't want to do that to him. What should I do here? And they were just like, we'll call you back. And I said, okay. So I hung up, and there's like, man, I did it again. I screwed myself. They're going to call me back and say, okay, if something else is more important, forget it, blah, 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 all this stuff. And now a million things were through my head. Oh, man, how could I do that? I screwed up my big chance, and blah, 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 blah. Phone rings about an hour later, and they were like, they said, just so you know, Vince McMahon likes people that honor their commitments, and we want you to keep your commitment. And I was like, oh, I said, great, thank you. I said, we'd like to do is, we'll have, keep your airline ticket, fly to New York. Actually, I think I flew into LaGuardia, and they were like, said, we're going to have somebody waiting there. We'll drive you to your show in Delaware, and then we will, drive you back so you can start the camp the next morning. So I was just like, man, I was just like ecstatic. I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I was just so excited, and of course that whole week leading up to it, I was just like, just on edge, you know what I mean? I was just, I was just like, all the, like I said, these million things, like this is everything I've been working for. And, if I don't get it now, I'm never going to get it. And all these things were going through my mind, and my buddies saw that I was like so stressed out about it. This couple days before I left, they just kind of kidnapped me and took me to the beach, and we just hung out and just chilled out. It was like just what I needed right before I went, just kind of calm my nerves and hang out with some friends and have some laughs and stuff like that. So that's what we did. And I flew down, I went and did the show, and was working with a guy named Glenn Osborne, who at the time I had really good matches with him, and I just thought he was a really nice guy. And he was a big dude, so of course I didn't really warm up properly, and I went to pick him up for a slam, and I strained or pulled my ab muscles. And of course I didn't feel it till later when I cooled down, and when I drove back, I got to the back of the hotel in Stamford at about 4 o'clock in the morning. We had to be up at like 7 or 7:30 to start, to get to the office and do the breakfast and train and all this sort of thing for the whole day. And so I only had like 3.5, 4 hours, and I woke up in the morning and I couldn't sit up. So my stomach was just like, these muscles were like, I don't know what it was, felt like someone was jamming a knife right in my stomach, and I was just like, how does this have to happen to me now, And I was just like trying so hard to cover the pain, and like of course as a wrestler you don't ever want anybody to know you're hurt, so it's like I can't let them know I'm hurt. I don't want them to see that I'm hurt, and so I was like gritting my teeth and kind of bearing it, and I just remember we had the breakfast and then went to the gym to work out, and I don't think I worked out that day just because I don't want to hurt this any more than it already is, so I just kind of maybe went off into a corner and maybe had some ice on it or something, and whatever it was that I did, and then we went back to we had an hour in between. After lunch, we had an hour in between where we would go back to the hotel and hang out for an hour. And then we had to be in the TV studio to train in the ring with Tom Pritchard and Dory Funk. So what happened was so I went back to the hotel and I iced it for like an hour. I was just like trying to get it numb so I couldn't feel it, and I was holding on my stomach because I knew we had 4 or 5 hours to do in the ring still. So I was just like, man. So I got there and I'm trying to stretch and do all these different things to stretch it out, and I was in so much pain. But once I got in that ring, man, I was just like, all the adrenaline in my body was just pumping, and it was just like I couldn't even feel it. I couldn't feel a thing, and it was like somebody could have really been stabbed me and I wouldn't even know the difference. I was just like focused, and like I said, I felt it later. After every day, man, I would go back and just lay with ice on my stomach for the whole night back at the hotel. But it was tough, man. And then there was it was a good week, and that was the week that I got offered my contract, and I didn't know exactly how it worked or anything like that, but I was under the impression that they waited until after you left, after the week, and they evaluated you because they taped your matches and they taped your promo segments and things like that, and you had a sit-down one-on-one interview, I remember, with Michael Cole, and that I did, and so I thought they would go and evaluate all those sorts of things, and there was like 12 guys there, and then after each day we would sit down and watch the videotapes and those sorts of things, and talk about them and talk about the matches, talk about the promos and what we could do better, and guys helping each other out, and of course Tom and Dory, and we'd have guys stopping in. Jim Ross was in there every day, and Michael Hayes came in. Bruce Pritchard was in all the time, and I remember Gorilla Monsoon coming in and giving us advice. Actually, one day Shawn Michaels showed up and talked to us for a little bit, and so it was like a really surreal experience, to be there and growing up as the biggest, I thought the biggest wrestling fan in the world. Now at the headquarters of, when everybody, which was the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. It was just, it was a weird feeling, and I'll never forget, because I think it was either on the Wednesday or Thursday. It might have been on Thursday, because I know that they had a pay-per-view on the Sunday, so all the office and everything was leaving on Saturday. And we were all sitting there. I was just kind of sitting on the ring apron. All the guys were just talking before we were going to watch our video and for the day. And we were all sitting there. And Bruce came in, and he was there, and blah blah blah. And we're talking. Also, Bruce turned around, and slapped me on the leg, and said, "I need to talk to you for a second." And I was like, "Okay." So we went up kind of up the hallway a little bit. And I looked back, and I could see all the guys doing the sticking the neck out to see what's going on. And Bruce was like, "Hey, I just want to get your feeling. How's everything going here?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's great, And at the time, I was just like I said, I breathed wrestling. That's all it was for me, and that's all I thought about on television. That was it. And I was just like, having a blast. I said, this is everything that I thought it would be. I get to be in the ring, 5 hours a day. I said, the guys are great. I said, Dorian Tom, learning a lot from them, having a lot of fun. I said, it's just a good time. I said, I'm just really excited to be here, and really feel like I'm, doing some good things and having some good training sessions and good matches, because at the end we'd have matches with all the guys. And he's like, yeah, because, we've been watching you, and we think that, you're pretty far ahead of the rest of the guys here. And I was like, kind of blew me away a little bit. I was like, oh, I said, really? And he said, yeah. He was just wondering, how, what would you say if we were to offer you a contract? And of course, I'm just inside, I'm freaking out, I'm just like, and I couldn't believe the words I was hearing. I was just like, yeah. I said, that would definitely, interest me very much, definitely. And I said, look, it's nothing much, it's $300 a week, but he said, that's we just think you're at the point where you deserve a steady check, and you deserve to have some income and a little bit of security, and you keep your bookings, and you do all your bookings, and every month we'll have you come back and do the training camp, and then it could be 6 months, could be a year, could be a year and a half. We just don't know. When there's something right for you on TV, we'll bring you up. But until the meantime, we just we just think that you deserve this and you've earned it. And I was just like, man, I was just like, thank you. And Bruce was one guy there that was always very good to me. And so it was it was cool for him to be the one to tell me and stuff like that. So it was very exciting. And then I don't know what this was about, but right at the end, right before my back, he goes, puts his arm around me, goes, congratulations, you earned it. And I said, thanks. He goes, you might want to just keep this to yourself. Maybe not mention anything to the rest of the guys, till the week's out. And I was like, okay, no problem. So of course, I don't want to, I don't want to tell anybody. So it's like I go back and as we're leaving the building after, and I could see, everybody wanted to ask me when I came back, but as soon as we walked out the building, they had rental cars for us, so we were going in our different, there'd be like 4 or 5 guys in a car. We'd go, and all the guys, what happened? What did he say? What did he want? And I was just like, I just wanted to get my feelings on how the camp was going, and I was just like, just get my feelings on how the training was, and how everybody was doing, and if I enjoyed it, and just kind of feeling it out, just getting a feel for how I thought of it. You're bullshitting, you're lying, they offered you a deal and you're not telling us, and this and that. And I was like, no, and I was like, man, I wish I could tell these guys, but I can't. And then, that's pretty much how it happened. So, and then the funny story after that was they said, I talked to Bruce again before I left, and he said, he goes, yeah, we'll have the contract sent up to your place, and you can take it and sign it and send it back, and you'll whenever you get it, just sign it. And he goes, and when we have the next camp, we'll give you a call, a little bit of notice, and come down and spend a week at the camp. We'll just keep doing that. And I said, okay, sounds awesome. He goes, hey, if you don't have that contract, in I think he said 2 weeks, call me. I was like, okay, no problem. And then so 2 weeks passed, and of course I'm like sitting there, man, where's this thing? And it was like, I'm looking at my watch, and this mail guy's usually here by this time, I'm freaking out, and didn't come. And I was like, man, he told me to call. And so I grabbed the phone. I was like, trying to talk myself into calling. I was like, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to be a nuisance, and I don't want to this and that. And I was like, but he told me to call. I'm just trying to talk myself into it. So finally, I got the courage up, and I called, and I was like, hey, Bruce, it's Jay Riso. He's like, oh, hey, how you doing? I said, good. He goes, did you get that deal? I said, no. I said, it hasn't come yet. That's why I'm calling you. He told me to give you a call if it's not here. He goes, oh, damn. He goes, well, if you don't have it by this time next week, give me a call. I said, okay. So I hung up, and next week I'm waiting. No contracts. And I'm like, oh, man, did they change their mind? Did I, of course, all the, negative thoughts start coming through first, right? And I was like, man, it's the same thing. Oh, man, I call him up. I going to bug him again. So I called him, and I was just like, hey, I still haven't got it. You haven't got it yet? Oh, damn. Just, if you don't get it by next week, call me. Another week passes, it's not there, and now I'm just like, man, I don't want to keep calling. I'm just not going to call. So I didn't call, and then I was just sitting there, reading the paper one day, and knocked on the door, opened it up, and there was a delivery guy and handed it to me, and it was just like, there it was in my hands, it was official, and I was just like, oh man, I couldn't believe it. And the thing is too, I was like, when it happened, I only told a couple people when I got home, because I was like, if anything happens, this falls through, I'm going to look like the biggest schmuck in the world, so I'm not going to tell anybody. And I took it to a lawyer to have it notarized, and the lawyer starts going through all of them. Oh, this looks like it. I said, look, I'm not in any position to negotiate anything. I don't care what you tell me that the contract says, I'm signing it. So just put your stamp on it and give it back to me. So he's like, all right. And he stamps it, and I was like, sign it, sent it in, and the way it went, that's how it happened.
Cool.
Long story longer.
Was there ever any chance of you going to ECW or WCW?
I think there was ECW. I had a couple phone numbers, and I tried calling, but never had any return phone calls. Of course, it was somewhere that I would really have liked to have gone, and the time had a great buzz, and they were doing great shows, and it was somewhere that I really wanted to go and try to make a name for myself, but just it never happened. And as far as WCW goes, I had after being at Brett's place and meeting him briefly a couple of times, then fast forward to when all the stuff had happened in Montreal and all that, and that kind of time in between there, and when I heard from Jim Cornette in March, it was probably, I want to say December or January of 97 or early 98. I was at some function. Actually, it was Carl DeMarco was getting married, and he was kind of having like a get together before, like a little party with friends and family and stuff like that. So he invited us to come down. So I went down, and Brett was there, and so went over and we talked a little bit more, and he was like, "Oh, so how's everything going with you in New York?" And I said, "It's not going." He's like, "This is not. You don't have a deal?" I said, "No, I don't have a deal." I said, I went Dead Dark match not long ago, but I'm not sure if anybody saw it or whatever, and it's just, I said, nothing for me so far has come up there. He goes, oh, really? He goes, well, I'm just starting to get in WCW now, and I don't know how much pull or anything like that I have there, but why don't you get me a tape and some things, and I'll see what I can do with it. And I said, okay. So he gave me his information, and I said, I'm not sure if he had other things going on or whatever at that time, but I'd sent the stuff to him, but never heard anything after that. So I don't even know if he ever got the tape at all, or gave it to anybody. I'm not sure what happened to it, but nothing ever materialized there either. And everything works out. Everything happens for a reason. So that it worked out for me. I think that it was very beneficial for me to be able to go to WWE, as far as at the time with the Attitude Era and the momentum of the show starting to swing back in WWE's favor, and them having a real knack for having the younger roster and building, making new stars, and having to make new stars because the established stars were in WCW, and so I think it worked out.
Now, your first night in, they put you over for the light heavyweight title.
Yeah.
Were you surprised? When did you find out that you were going to get the belt?
Yeah, it was funny because I was. I got to the. It was funny because actually I was at the end of each training camp. We would go and do a couple indie shows, and this particular time we were we were down wrestling in Massachusetts for Killer Kowalski, and we'd done a couple matches, and Bruce, who was with us on the trip, came up to myself and the Hardy Boys and was like, said, "Hey guys, just want to let you know, you guys are all coming to they had a pay-per-view in Hamilton, Ontario. We want you guys all to be at the pay-per-view." And I figured, hey, it's from Toronto, it's really close, just come check it out, whatever. And it was like, okay, great, yeah, I'll be there. And then he goes, "Oh, by the way, you're all starting," and walks away. So of course we're all following, like, "Bruce, what are we doing?" He goes, I don't even know, I can't tell you, And we're just like, please tell us. And then, he was just like, screwing with us a little bit. And then finally he came back and said, "Look, this is what what you're doing." And he brought in, this member of the Brood, you're gonna be with Gangrel. Well, they didn't say Brood, they didn't have the Brood, that is, you're brought in with Gangrel, and you're gonna be with Gangrel, and this and that. And I thought that gimmick was awesome. So I was like, he just started to come on TV in the months before that, and I was just like, man, this guy's crazy looking, and he's just like, he's got this really something different about him, and so I was like, man, that's awesome. It's really cool to be able to come into something, and they were, Dave was getting some good TV time, was getting a good push, and
that's Dave Heath, who was Gangrel.
Dave Heath, yeah, Gangrel, yeah, and I was just like, man, I just saw a really good opportunity there with that, and then of course I called Adam right away and told him about it, and he was like, yeah, he goes, "Oh man," he goes, "I've been working with him on the house shows and stuff, and he's he's really good, and the gimmick is awesome, his entrance is awesome." I was like, "Yeah, no," I said, "I'm really looking forward to to doing something with it," because like I said, it's really good to come into something that's already kind of established, and they were just starting to get behind and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I just saw a huge opportunity, and I was like, man, this is going to be, I'm really like excited about this. And I already had started getting all these creative things in my mind. Like I had long blonde hair, and I was like, what can I do to be different? And I was like, started thinking maybe I should get like blonde dreadlocks, and I thought that would be like the coolest thing, but I just didn't have enough time to do the dreadlock thing, so I just kind of left my hair the way it was. I still think it would have been cool to do, but that's what had happened. We flew up. We got back on the Sunday during the day, and I think I went down because we had TV in Detroit and in Lansing, Michigan, right after that. And so I landed and drove straight back to my parents' place where I still lived. I quick change of clothes and drove right down to Hamilton, and I didn't know what I was doing. I walked down through the crowd, and it was hilarious because they said, "Look, we want you to dress kind of like how Edge dressed when he debuted." He was wearing, and so I had called him, like, "Hey, do you have what did you wear in those vignettes? You wore the leather pants and the shirt. Do you have that stuff?" He's like, "Yeah, I have it all here." I was like, "Okay, can I wear it?" And so it ended up I don't think I did. I wore his leather pants, and I wore the shirt that he wore in the vignettes for the thing, and I went and bought myself a pair of sunglasses on the way to the arena, and I was just like, it was just such short notice that I was just like, man, I'm just trying to look as close to what he looked like as possible, and I said, "Look, we're never, they walk me through, we're gonna come down through the crowd, jump the guardrail, the whole thing," and I just remember going out there, and before I wrestled, I used to wet my hair down, and then so before I went out, I was squeezing it and squirting it. My hair looking all nice, so I thought, and then as I got up there and didn't realize, when you get into a production like that and all the lights and everything like that, it hit my hair, and I could just, as I was standing there waiting, to go down, I could just feel my hair growing, and I was like, oh shit, I look like an asshole when I get on TV. So I jumped the rail, and I could just feel my hair was friggin' huge, and watching it back, my hair was just like a puff ball, and I was just like, man, I was like so embarrassed, but it was like, it was a pretty quick flash, kind of like, hey, who's that guy? And but it was like surreal, man, because like actually, the night before, wrestling, in front of 250, 300 people, and the next night you're live on a pay-per-view. It was crazy, and we drove down to Detroit, and needless to say, I never squirted water in my hair again. Used conditioner, that was the thing, put a little conditioner in there, comb it through, it seemed to work, but so I went down and did the same thing, kind of walked out and did something on the TV in Detroit, and then in Lansing I jumped Edge on the floor and beat him up, and then a week after that he joined the Brood, and the Brood was formed, and away we went. We had the entrance, we had everything, had the music, and had a cool little thing going on, and fortunately got along very good with David Heath, who I still keep in contact with, and saw him not too long ago in England, and just really another guy with a great heart, just a really nice guy, and we really enjoyed the doing the gimmick, and we all rode together and spent a lot of time together. So we really got into a good groove there as that group, and I personally felt, and I think Edge and I think Gangrel will tell you also, that it was maybe stopped a little bit too soon, and nobody really never got any reasons as to why, but so that's kind of how it happened.
What was the locker room atmosphere like when you first got there? I mean, you were right in the middle of Monday Night Wars and everything.
It was a good time to be there, man. It really was. It was like, it was just, I remember coming in and I always, like I said, I had the mindset of, this is where I wanted to be. And I mean, to me, getting there and staying there, or getting there and moving up were like completely separate things. So of course, it was my one goal was to get there, but my next goal was to go as far as I could go. The atmosphere was awesome, and it was like, of course, when you get there, and it was kind of spoiled in some respects. And when I got there, like I said, business was just unbelievable. And it was just like, every arena that we went to was sold out. And it was like we were doing double shots every Sunday for like 2 years straight. And it was like, for instance, we'd wrestle in the afternoon on a Sunday in Cleveland at the Gund Arena, which, holds, 17,000, 18,000 people, would be sold out. Jump right in a car, drive to Pittsburgh, wrestle the evening show in Pittsburgh, same thing, 15,000, 16,000 people, things sold out. And it was like that every week. And it was like, we just very rarely went overseas unless it was to go overseas to do a pay-per-view in England or something like that. And this business was just so strong at the time, and everywhere we went, it was like being a rock star. When I first got there, it was like we would get to hotels and there would be, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people waiting out front of the hotel, and it was just a really, really crazy time. And it was, like I said, in some respects spoiled, like, man, it's going to be like this forever. And it was just like, it was just very fortunate, knock on wood, very fortunate to be in at that time, and had great guys that were there to live. And like I said, everybody got along. It was a great roster. Everybody was having fun, and everyone got along, and it was a good locker room. Everybody laughed, and it was just a good time, man. It was really good, and everybody, was on the same page. And of course, you had guys like Steve Austin, who was on top and was just going crazy. And I became pretty tight with Steve, and had a pretty good relationship with him and things like that, and just just watching him and seeing the way that he conducted himself. And like I said, Steve to me was a guy that was like, he was all business. Like, I mean, he knew what he wanted to do, he knew what he wanted to have done, and he was going to make sure that it was done. He was the guy, but the thing I always respected about Steve was that he was, even on house shows, he was the first guy at the building, he was the last guy to leave. And that impressed the hell out of me. I was like, man, this is a guy that could walk in before his match and, nobody would say anything to him. But he was there before everybody, and he was the last one to leave. And I was like, that really impressed me. I was like, man, this guy's a professional, and that's why he's at where he's at, you know what I mean? And that was, and he watched the other matches, and he had suggestions for guys and stuff like that. And and that was it. That was the time, man. And that was like I said, it was just a unbelievable time to be there. The words can't express what it was like to be there at that time.
Okay. Now, was it the kind of thing where everyone was making money, so it was...
Yeah, I think definitely everybody was making.
So you didn't have anybody any of the guys there who's this new guy to come in?
No, there was no, and I think too, I was at a time also where, like I said, things were a little different. Guys weren't getting paid to train at that time. Guys were coming in that had been busting their ass for years so when they got there, they were like, I want to make the best of this. Not to say that everybody's like that now, but sometimes I feel like with the younger guys, when you get paid to train, it's like you've already had something handed to you. It's like you didn't have to work for anything. So it's like, you always expect something to be done for you instead of doing it for yourself. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not singling anybody out. I'm not saying that that's just the case for everybody, but I have seen it in the past, and I think that's also one of the differences. So.
You think that you had a level of respect coming in?
I'm not saying that I'm any better or had any more respect for than the other guy, but I have seen it where it's like I said, guys get paid to train or get paid to whatever, and like I said, they don't maybe didn't grow up loving the business or wanted to be wrestlers or whatever it was, and they're just kind of, like I said, when you said, hey, I'm going to give you $750 a week to learn how to do this, you know what I mean? It's rather than, hey, man, I'm awesome, I'm going to make $75 tonight to do something that I absolutely love, and work your ass, go anywhere you can to try to get to this level. You know what I mean? It's a different thing. So it's I think that, like I said, when I first came in, there was more guys like that, where it was like wanting to working really hard to get there. It's not like it is now as far as the developmental territories and things like that.
Okay, yeah. Now, you mentioned that you guys all thought that Gangrel was taken away from you guys a little too soon. What was your opinion of the writing team back then?
I don't know, because I wasn't really sure of how it all worked when I first got there. You know what I mean? It was different. You know, when you get to be working independents, and I didn't even have any experience doing promos or anything like that. If I saw a microphone, I was scared to death, and I was just like, I didn't know what to say, and I was just like, I was like terrified of that. I was like, well, what's going to happen the day they put a microphone in my face? I'm going to like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was just like, the writing team, like I said, I wasn't sure exactly how it worked. I know Vince Russo was there, and Ed Ferrara, and guys like that, and they would, I basically, the day of the show, I would find out what was going on, but I was never in a position to question anything or do anything, so I was just like, oh, okay, that sounds good, and I would just try to do it the best of my ability, and like I said, one day we just showed up, and somebody walked past us and said, hey, it's the Brood. Won't be saying that for much longer. I kept walking, and we were all like, what? Like I said, we all rode together, just like kind of brushed it off. We didn't know what he was talking about, and we found out later that day we were basically splitting up that night, and like nobody knew why, and it was just like, kind of what's going on here, and then split it up, and Gangrel ended up going with the Hardys, and we kind of turned, I guess, babyface, and went from there.
Yeah. Now, the Hardys obviously is a name that keeps popping up throughout your career. What were the Hardys like back then?
They were great, and it's funny because I remember watching, them do jobs and stuff on TV, and I'd watch them wear the crazy tights and stuff, and I was like, man, what's with these guys? The headbands and stuff, and the thing about Jeff is, I remember watching him on TV, and he slipped and did something off the ropes once. In my mind, he was always the guy that fell off the ropes, and I was like, and like I said, it's not that I disliked him or anything like that, but I was just like, then I heard they got deals, they signed contracts. Man, that's crazy. I've heard a lot about these guys. I haven't really seen them. I just saw them, basically, do jobs and this and that. And when I got to my second training camp, they were there because they signed them and said they wanted to come to training camp. When I first saw them, and they were just like, they saw me and they came over and were like, introduced them. Oh man, we've heard about you, and Adam talked about you, because they did a couple dark matches and things like that. And they're just really personable guys, and I was like, man, we just hit it off right away. And I was like, man, these guys are really great guys.
So the chemistry was there. Right?
Yeah, it was there right away. And I remember, I can't say how many nights we just sat up and talk and laugh and joke around, and it was just the three of us. And then next thing you know, you look at the clock and you got to be at the training camp in an hour, and it's like, oh man, we were up all night. So it was, and a lot of times that happened. And but like I said, a lot of things happened together. We did the training camps. We got called up to TV in the same day, and all those sorts of things, and just kind of snowballed from there. So yeah, they were my earliest memories of those guys were nothing but good, and I'm still good friends with them to this day, and just saw Jeff not too long ago, and Jeff's I don't see Jeff or talk to Jeff as much as Matt, but I feel like I have a good bond with Jeff.
Now, you guys pretty much made your names against each other too, particularly the ladder matches, the TLC match with the Dudleys at WrestleMania. What goes into putting one of those matches together?
Man, it was crazy. The first one was like, we were trying. That was kind of when we started feuding with Gangrel and the Hardys, and what happened was they were with Michael Hayes. We had a really good string of matches with those guys in house shows, and actually what happened was Edge got hurt. He had a sprained neck or something like that, and so they just kept him in the corner, and Gangrel and I worked against the Hardys on a couple of house show loops, and man, we just tore it up. We just had awesome matches, and actually Jack Lanza, who was the agent at the time, and I didn't even realize they did reports on the shows and sent them back. I mean, really didn't know how anything worked. And apparently in one of his reports on the show, he said this is one of the best, if not the best, tag match I've ever seen on the house show. And we at the time, we used to have like a monthly newsletter, and the JR would do, and he sent it out on the newsletter and said, just want to thank, the Brood and the Hardy Boys for putting on the match on the house show, their hard work, and it's appreciated, and keep it up, guys, and blah 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 and stuff like that. So it was like really, nice, a really good motivating thing, and so we're just having these great matches, and just kind of kept snowballing. And then eventually, the Hardys turned on Michael Hayes, and they, I think they had planned to put another team with Michael Hayes to kind of throw in the fold, but it never worked out. That's when Gangrel went with the Hardys, and then we kind of had this whole thing. We were just, like I said, we were working, and we're just bouncing ideas off each other. What can we do to be different? What can we do to really, kind of get things moving up? And I think it was me that said, we should do a best of 7 series. It would be pretty cool. I know it's been done before, but I mean, not with tag teams. It'd be really cool. And then somebody else threw into the fold that was like, hey, what if we did a best of 7? It starts out with a regular match, and then every match is different. And then I think it was Matt that said, and the last match, it comes down to the last match. The last match would be like a tag team ladder match. It's never been done. And we're just like, yeah, let's pitch this idea. So now all of a sudden we were like excited. And
is that the first time you were pitching ideas?
That's the first time we ever pitched an idea, and it was like, so we pitched the idea, and I don't even know who we pitched it to. I'm trying to remember. But next thing you know, we show up next week at TV, and we started it. We started off with a regular match, and then we did like a Texas Tornado match, and we did like a no disqualification. We did a bunch of different matches, and I'll never forget, because it was the first time I ever really talked to Vince. It was it was a real an intimidating presence, especially when you're a young kid like I was, and just getting there, and like I said, just trying to work hard and make a name for yourself. And sometimes I would see him in the hallway, and I would just get nervous, and I would just like turn around and walk away, just avoid any kind of contact. So it was awkward, and I was nervous, and I remember Adam and I walking into an arena. I remember it was Birmingham, Alabama, and walked in with our bags, and just kind of walking in, and came around the corner, and Vince was coming around the corner at the same time. We're both just kind of standing there, and it's like, he said, Jay, Adam, and we're just like, hey, Mr. McMahon, how are you? He's like, oh, good. He goes, hey, I've really been enjoying the stuff you guys are doing. And we're like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, the matches you guys had, they're just great. They're really entertaining. He goes, I was wondering how, this match you guys work every week can keep me interested. He goes, but Dan, if you guys don't do something different every night, it's fresh, it's exciting. Keep up the good work. I'm really enjoying it. And we're just like, man, another mark check in the win column for us. We were just like really excited about it, and nobody knew what to expect from this ladder match. We didn't even know how to do a tag team ladder match, so we kind of got together a couple days before the actual match, and kind of hashed out. We didn't really work on spots or anything like that. We just kind of positioning the ladders in different ways, saying, what can we do with these ladders? We know there's going to have to be more than one ladder because you got the 4 guys in there. So we're just doing different things with them and coming up with it. What if we did this? What if we did this? And what you see is what you got. That's all the stuff that we came up with and plugged in. And it was like, I'll never forget that night, man. It was crazy. It was in Cleveland at the Gund Arena, and it was right after the Good Housekeeping match with Jeff Jarrett in China. And I remember at the time Edge and I came through the crowds. We were sitting. They snuck us up through a back elevator. We were actually in the back room of a concession stand. We were sitting there, and I just remember being so nervous about this match, and I was just back there, and I was just like pacing, and he's like, and I was like, would you stop pacing? You're making me nervous. And I was like, I can't help it, it's, how I pace when I'm nervous. I just back and forth all over the place, and he's just like watching me. He's like, man, this guy, he's as calm as can be. And so we went out, and we did the match, and I just never forget the first big thing was I ran Jeff back into the corner, put the ladder down, and I ran and I stepped on the bottom rung of the ladder and jumped up and drop kicked him. But in my mind, when I saw it happening, I saw me hitting the drop kick and coming over and landing on the mat. Well, I hit the ladder and I went over the ladder. I drop kicked him. When I came down, of course, I hit the ladder and I bounced back, and it was just like, I remember the first crowd reaction was like, wow, and I was like, man, this is going to be crazy. I mean, these people are ready for something like this. And then we just went, and it was just like, it was just one of those special nights where the moon and the stars and the planets were aligned, and it just worked out perfect. And it was a physical match, man. We beat the hell out of each other, and I had like a hole in my elbow after, and it was just like, it was just, like I said, one of those nights that everything clicked. And after the match, we got a standing ovation. Went to the back, where the monitor, where all the boys were, and everybody at the monitor got up and gave us a standing ovation. And it was just like, to have your peers, do that for you, it was like something I've never experienced before. And it was just like a huge compliment to me from guys that were, that were back there, that they, were that entertained by it, and that they did that. And it was like really taken aback by that. And watched it the next day again in catering. They had the tape playing, the same thing. After the match, everybody in catering got up and gave us a standing ovation. It was the same thing. And then went out for the show, the same thing. The crowd gave us another standing ovation. We did a little four-way thing, and everybody shook hands, and the crowd went and gave us a standing ovation. So it was like, it's kind of like we arrived, and it was like, kind of we always, and Matt Hardy said this, I think he said it best when he said, it took us from being WWE wrestlers to WWE superstars. And it was like, I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about it, but it was like, it was such a, it was just a I said, unbelievable night, unbelievable time. And it was funny because I remember after the match, we were walking out and Vince stopped us again. And he was like, man, that was fucking unbelievable. And he was just like, that was like, I've never seen anything like that before. And he was just like, he goes, God, he goes, the things that you did, and, thank you so much. And we're all proud of you guys. You guys should be proud of yourselves, and just gave us a good pep talk and made us feel good about what we did. And I don't even know where I got the courage to say it, but I was just like, if you think that was good, wait till you see the rematch. And he looked at me and he was like, the rematch? And does one of these and then walks away. So I was like, oh man, so it was cool. And just everybody was like really stoked about it, so it was a good time.
Cool. And then the Dudleys were thrown into the mix.
Yeah, and it was the thing is, they came in and it was like, we kept away from them for a little bit, and it was now the Dudleys, and they added a different dynamic, and it was one of those special times where, like you said, you don't know what you're going to get, but you threw it in there, and the three teams worked, and we all had chemistry, and we all had chemistry in a different way. And it was like, I think at that point, the tag team division was just as important as everything else on the show, and just as entertaining. And we're really, in turn, also helping each other become stars and become these bigger characters, and putting on these great matches, and we had great storylines and stuff like that, and we kind of intertwine all the teams, and actually we got to the WrestleMania in Anaheim, and they were actually, the Dudleys, I believe, were supposed to retain the belts, and what happened was they had we're talking about Edge and I splitting up and going our separate ways, and which kind of made me nervous a little bit, and because just I felt like I didn't have the personality yet as far as not being a tag team guy and really separating myself, and what was it? I didn't know what I was going to do to stand out at that point, so it made me a little bit nervous, and then there was a couple new writers there that really took an interest in us and saw something else in us, and we, as talking backstage, realized that we had these personalities that were really kind of goofy and sense of humor and sarcastic and this whole kind of thing, and so they were like, we should exploit this a little bit, I think, and they kind of had it worked in the show one day where leading up to the WrestleMania we would do commentary. So I was just like, man, Edge and I had talked, and we were both nervous about it, but we were like, this is a chance, we got to talk here, and we need to say something because we really haven't had a chance to speak, so we really have to to nail this one. And so we were like, these are the things we should touch upon, and blah blah blah. So we went out, and he said his piece, and we had it. So he was going to say his piece, I'd say my piece, and I just remember once I started saying my piece, man, this feeling came over my body like I never felt before, and I just started, like, everything I was saying, I was like, I meant, I really meant what I was saying, and I was just like, and I felt that gave me my first confidence as far as talking. I said, hey, I can do this. You know what I mean?
So it's just something within. It was nothing.
Yeah, it was like something
nobody brought anything out.
It was something that I needed to do, and it was like to kind of get over that initial fear of doing it. Like, hey, I have something to say. I can say it. You know what I mean? I don't have to be afraid to say it. And it was like, so I just boom, 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 and said it, and it got a great reaction backstage with everybody, and apparently, I guess Vince said, he didn't say it to us, but apparently said it to some other people. He said, these guys reinvented themselves tonight. They're not through yet. They just reinvented their characters. We got to keep going with this.
Is there anybody that kind of helped you along with the promos? Or
yeah, the guy, this guy Brian Gewertz, and another guy that was there at the time who's not there anymore, and they were both, like I said, really, like I said, we got into kind of like more of a, became friends with those guys more outside wrestling, so they kind of got to see the real us, and that, hey, these guys do have personalities and can talk and this and that, so kind of, they wanted to give us a chance to show that on screen, so kind of help push that along. So, and then we did another sit-down segment. The other guy, the guy's name was Tommy Blacha, was the other guy that was no longer there anymore, and he had this idea on Heat, where the Hardys are doing a sit-down segment. You guys come in and sit down with them, and then you guys just start going off like a different side of you guys that we've never seen before, and you guys just get up and storm off the set. It was just just say what you feel. So we were just like, we said it, we started swearing, and they were like, oh, that's perfect, we'll just beep it out, and it was just like, it was really real, you know what I mean? And it was like, and from there it just kind of snowballed, and we just got to talk more and get to express our personalities, and from there we did the I know we wanted to stop coming through the crowd just because it was really hard to do, and it was like, it was, you'd have to run up and sometimes getting through the fans, people would pull at you and sometimes pushing you, or you walk and somebody would shove you from behind or something, you know what I mean? Something like that would always happen, and it was just really hard to do at that time. So it was like, and especially if we're gonna, maybe start moving in different directions as far as turning heel or whatever, it might be something to stop doing. So basically maybe they were too good to be near the fans now. And that's kind of how we went with it. So it's like, hey, we don't want to abandon our fans because we know you love us. So for the benefit of, we're still going to let you get near us, but you can do it with your camera. So for the benefit of those who flash photography, here you are, 5 seconds, take your shot, and that's all you get. So that's kind of how that came about.
So that's an idea that you guys came up with?
Well, we started coming up with that idea, and then I think Brian had said, for the benefit of those with flash photography. We're just like, flash photography, what the hell is that? So we're like, it's perfect. So we started saying it, and we were just like, so just stuff like that, and we just kind of, became kind of glorified Bill and Ted guys, we do stuff to make each other laugh. We're figuring, shit, if we're laughing at this stuff, maybe other people are going to laugh at it and find it entertaining too, and that's kind of how we kept going, stuff, the kazoos, all that stuff. It was just like, just us being, and like I said, it gave me so much confidence doing that and seeing reactions where it's like, oh, and then I just kept getting more comfortable talking and expressing myself and things like that, thinking, hey, you know what I mean? This is how I am anyway when I'm with people that I know, my friends. I'm joking around, acting goofy and sarcastic and doing things that I do. Just turn it up a notch and do it out there, and it's going to work, and that's what I did. And it's just kind of gone like that ever since.
Cool. Looking at the TLC match at WrestleMania, the first TLC match, what were your thoughts going into that one? Again, did you feel a lot of pressure to top the ladder matches?
Is this the one in Anaheim?
The one in 2000.
That's not the one in Houston, right?
Yeah, I think it was the Houston one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because because the first one in Anaheim wasn't supposed to be a TLC match. It was like it was a triple threat ladder match, and then we had the tables that were there ringside, the chairs, and then it was officially, I guess, a TLC match after that. But we always, whether it was a ladder match, a TLC match, whatever it was, I don't want to say we did feel a little bit of pressure because it was like, I don't think we ever went there with the intent like, hey, we have to top this last one. All we wanted to do was have it at par with those ones because we didn't want to embarrass ourselves, and it was like, we put so much pride into the ones that we did before, and this, not just me, this is all the guys involved, Bubba, Devon, Matt, Jeff, myself, and Adam, we felt the same thing. We were just like, if we go out there and just purposely try to top it, it's not going to happen, but let's just make it at par with the other ones, because the other ones we felt were great, and just, it felt like every time we did it, we'd reach a new level, and it would become better, and just by gradually, learning how to make what we were doing mean more, rather than just, hey, we're just going to crash a guy through a table for no reason. Well, there's got to be a reason for it, and there's got to be a build to it, and people have to want. If you just start crashing through things, pretty soon people aren't going to. All right, I saw that guy go through a table already. There's got to be a build to it. There's got to be meaning behind it, and it's got to be sold. You know what I mean? So it's like, and when you have 8 guys, it's much easier to do that rather than just 2 guys, where it's like you got to continuously do action and things like that. When you have 8 guys, somebody's always doing something. So 2 guys go down, they're out of the picture for a while. You got 2 more guys coming in. So it was much easier to keep action and keep the match moving. But it was something, like I said, we always wanted them to be at par. We never wanted one to be worse than the other, but we always felt that pressure to keep it on par, never the pressure to make it better, even though if they did, that's great. We just knew that purposely going out there with the intent to try and top it just wasn't going to happen. So.
Were there any spots that were rejected in the back or anything for being too dangerous that you remember?
No. I remember the first hanging thing we did where I think it was a WrestleMania in Houston where Devon and Jeff were hanging. And then Devon took that huge bump off thing, which was like credit to him. He was terrified of heights. And he pulled it off like a champ. That was like my idea, and I wanted to do it, but it just didn't fit. So I remember being really like bummed that I couldn't do it. And I was like, man, I want to be hanging up there, you know? And I was just like, but I'm so glad that it came off the way that it did, and it was really cool. I ended up getting to hang a couple matches later. I got it back, but I think for the most part, you know, they would always stress to us, look, guys, you know, we know how you guys are. We know how you guys want, you know, you want this match to be the best it can be, but please, safe but spectacular. That's what they would always say to us. And we're like, okay, we'll do our best, you know. So nobody ever tried to talk us out of doing anything, or tell us that we couldn't.
Did you have to go over the spots with the agents or anything?
Sometimes, you know. But Michael Hayes was our at the time and he was like really, and to his credit, he had great ideas. He's got a great mind for the business, and he was one of my favorite guys to talk to as far as, you know, psychology and even just matches in general and storylines and things like that. But as far as those matches go, he was the guy to go to. We always requested him, and I think he always, you know, realized he was going to get the call when he came to be the agent for those matches. So he always had great ideas and great insight and great, you know, twists and psychology to add to the matches and things like that. So it was good to have that outside voice in there too, like looking in and saying, hey, what about this, what about this, what about this. It was just everything gelled and just worked.
How about the physical toll those matches had? Is that something that could potentially lead to drug abuse for some guys?
Well, I think so, but I don't really think. I mean, of course, you know, of course it can. You know, I mean, you bang your body up and those types of things. But you know, personally, I mean, I never was a pill guy or anything like that. So, or a big drinker. Not to say that I'm, you know, I don't drink. When I do it right. But I'm not a guy that goes out every single night and gets completely plastered. But I'm not a pill guy by any means, and I don't think any other guys that were in those matches, you know, are. I know there's been some speculation about Jeff and that, but I don't think that. I think it's maybe blown out of proportion a little bit, but I don't think that's. No, I mean, like I said, I just think it depends on the individual, but I definitely see that they could, because we did put our bodies through a lot. But for the guys that were involved, I mean, I still keep in contact with all the guys, and it's not an issue.
Yeah. Do you think there got to a point where WWE had to tone down on those kind of matches? It seemed like that they went through like a safe phase.
Yeah. I just think, you know, it started to get to a point where it was like, you know, guys were just dropping like flies. I mean, Edge had neck surgery, you know, then you have Benoit, and, you know, Kurt's had neck problems. So you get all these guys with these, you know, these injuries, you know, knee problems, things like that, and guys were just like dropping left and right, and it's just like, you know, maybe we're just pushing the envelope too. And the thing is too, it's not like, you know, a show where it's like, hey, we're doing this once a month. It's not like that. People don't see that we're doing, you know, we're on the road 250, 300 days a year, and you don't have time to recover. You know, I mean, if some guys, you know, would do a big match like that and then have a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever it is to recover. We didn't have that luxury, you know. So it was like, you know, overseas, all over the place, and, you know, doing these things and really beating your body up, and not just that, the physical toll of traveling, the mental toll of it. So it was, you know, I think that everybody saw, look, we need to maybe pull it back a little bit, get more into storytelling, and when you hit something big, it needs to mean something, which I completely understand, and you know, I think that, you know, it's probably better off that way.
Do you think those matches are something that you guys did because you're a little younger and crazier?
I think so. I just think it was something that we felt we needed to do at the time to get noticed.
Yeah.
And you know, once you did it, it was like, you know, hey, this is what people want to see, and that's fine. But the thing is, I think that also regular matches we could get it done. So it was like, even if, oh man, I only want to see this guy in ladder matches, I don't think it was like that. I think it was, you know, not only could we, you know, we do those types of matches, but we could adapt our style and do different types of matches, like regular matches and tag matches and singles matches and 6-man tags or whatever, what have you. You know, it was I think it was very important. But
do you think the fans ever began to expect too much in those matches, and it had to be?
No, I never got that feeling. I never got the feeling they expected anything other than, to be entertained. And I think that, I don't think that in any of our minds did we ever think, we're just gonna go out there and half-ass this one. We've done enough of them. They've seen it. Let's just go out there and give them the bargain version of it. It didn't happen like that. We were all, took a lot of pride in things we did. We didn't want to devalue the other ones that we did, which is why we wanted to be at par with the other ones. So it was like, we in that respect, I think from our own personal standpoints, we didn't want to disappoint ourselves or the fans or the company or anybody.
All right, going back to your promos and everything, of course, that's something that you're widely remembered for. You mentioned Brian Gorwitz, who's a name a lot of the fans have heard but don't know much about.
Oh.
Can you describe him a little bit and what it was like to work with him?
Brian, yeah, he's a funny guy.
Of course, he's the Raw head writer, I should note that.
Yeah, he's he's a good dude. I mean, I can't say anything bad about Brian. He helped me out a lot in my career, and I know that for some reason he gets a lot of flack for things that go on, but I know sometimes things are out of his hands, but he's instrumental in pulling out another side of me that I didn't know existed, and as far as personality-wise goes, and talking and confidence as far as talking goes and things like that. So,
what were some of the techniques he used?
Not really any techniques. He would just be like, things that he would see me do off screen. He was just like, basically, you can do that on camera. You know what I mean? And just do that. And if I was saying something, hey, I have an idea for a promo, blah blah blah, and spit something out, and right away he would spit back 2 or 3 things. What about this? So it was just like we were on the same page as far as what my character was and what we both found entertaining, because our tastes were very similar in that respect. So it was it got to the point where he knew how to write for me or for my character or whatever, and then it was like, listen, I have an idea for something, but I have a problem with getting to a certain point. What about this? And I started off and you can do this, and throw out a couple different options. And I mean, like I said, he was very helpful, and like I said, he's like I said, the funny thing is outside the business too, he's a friend of mine, and I still keep in contact with him, and things we got along away from wrestling. Like I could talk to him on the phone for an hour, and wrestling wouldn't come up once. So it's like not like it was just a wrestling friendship where it was like hey, I'm using the Raw writer to try and get myself ahead on the show. It wasn't like that at all. We're actually buddies and away from the venue. So it's like that's kind of how it went.
Okay. Cool. And then it came time to split with Edge. What were your thoughts then?
I think at that time we were both ready for it, and we both had helped each other to that point as far as being characters. We knew that that there's only so far we go as a team. We won the tag titles 7 times. At that point, it was more times than anybody held the titles in WWE history. So it was like, what more can we do? We don't want our act to get stale, and we don't want it to come to the point where we'd rather leave it where it's like, man, those guys were great. They were a great team. They had great chemistry. We'd love to see them together again sometime, rather than get to the point where it's like, man, I'm sick of these guys. And I wish they'd do something else and get in a rut. We wanted to kind of leave on a high, on the kind of top of where we could be as a team, and I felt we did that, and I think we were both ready for it at that time, and we mutually, it was something that we both wanted to do. So it's not like, oh, this guy's holding me back or that guy's holding me back. It was like something like, hey, it's time. You know what I mean? And we both were on the personalities. We both, felt that we'd gone as far as we could as a team, and we did some great things. Now it's time to move on.
Yeah. What do you think of the whole angle to separate you guys, of you losing and then snapping?
Well, the thing is, I liked the angle. I thought it was good, and I think everybody agreed that I needed to be the heel in the situation, and that was fine. And it was, but it was such a weird time because we started to do it, we all started to roll with it, and then WWE bought out WCW. So they started the invasion thing. And they started that kind of in the middle of this. It was kind of lost in that mix of other things that were going on. So it kind of got pushed to the side for a few weeks or whatever it was, and it was then kind of brought back in, and it was kind of you know, I knew we wanted to do it because we wanted to do it where the last thing was in our hometown in Toronto, which is what we ended up doing, and it was great there. But I said the kind of before that I started off good, and I thought the build-up was good, but I thought it could have been that much better if there wasn't other things distracting. Like I said, at the time when WCW was coming in with the invasion stuff was kind of the focus was going on that rather than other things that were going on. So that was kind of what happened with that. And we did the turn, and the turn went good, and everything like that. So
okay. Are there any favorite matches that you had against Edge, or any funny stories from matches, things that went right or wrong?
Well, it was funny because, like I said, you know, we both thought we were ready for this big, you know, singles turn, and we're gonna take off from there and do our thing. And the problem was we were in this tag team frame of mind. You know, we've been a team for, you know, at this point 3 years straight or something, and all we did was tag matches. Very rarely did singles matches, and you get to start, you know, to train yourself to play off the other guy and to work as a tag team guy and this and that. So it was like, and the thing is, I don't even know if I don't know if people were 100% ready to see us split yet. I'm not sure of that or the way that it went, because we weren't officially like, you know, like good guys when the split happened. And to me, that it's hard if people aren't cheering you or have a vested interest in you as far as liking you and cheering you. And if you turn on that person, it's kind of like, oh, okay,
yeah,
you know. And then so it was you know, I think the first match that we had where I won the Intercontinental title from after. I think our memories of that were we just beat the living crap out of each other. It was like something we felt like not that it was like mad at each other or anything like that. It was just something that was like we're both into it, and just mentally we're just into this match and into the storyline and stuff like that. It was just something we felt we needed to go out and do, and I just remember beating the living piss out of each other. And he was cut, I was cut, and we came back and we're just like, yeah, I think that went good. You know, we're just like, you know, so it was. So we were pretty scarred up from that. I just remember it was just like beating the shit out of each other. But it was we had a ladder match after that, which is kind of forgotten about. But I thought it was a pretty good match. And it was the first singles match like that after being a tag team guy for so long. So it was really hard to kind of get used to that. I had one later on with Van Dam, which I thought was just one of my favorite singles matches to this day with Rob. And it kind of this other one to kind of helped me get the feel for having singles matches like that. So.
Well, now, then you were put with the Alliance. What were your thoughts of being a WWE guy, being put with the whole WCW, ECW thing?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really, I was just, I didn't know, you know, it was just like, I think they were just at the point trying to get me heat, you know, trying to get the fans to react to me somehow, because it was kind of wavering, you know what I mean? It was like kind of hit or miss with it, and it was like, you know, so I think they were just trying to think of a way to, you know, this Alliance thing was getting some steam behind it, and the guys were getting heat and stuff like that. So it was like, well, maybe we should throw them in that mix, and they throw a couple other WWE guys in, and you know, we'll do something with that. And it was like, I went in there, and like literally like 3 or 4 weeks later, they dissolved it.
Yeah.
So had to come back out of it again. But
do you think that it was a good idea?
I mean, it was okay what it was. I mean, Steve Austin was in it, and I remember the first one I went into I did the Alliance thing, and then like the next week on TV I came in and Steve kind of, you know, welcomed me into the fold and all that sort of thing, and we kind of went from there. So I mean, like I said, it didn't last long enough for me to really know if it was only like 3 weeks after that, I think, before I went belly up, but it was kind of not long enough to tell.
Okay. Then you had the Un-Americans gimmick.
Yeah.
With how come it got that kind of reaction?
I hated that.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
I mean, it's not me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not me. And it was like, you know, I was at a point where it was like, I felt like I was starting to get my singles legs underneath me. I was just starting to get comfortable and get a good feeling, get good matches and this, and like, I want to put you in this group. And I was like, okay. And I've been there for a long time. At this point, I was like, look, you know, I'm going to talk to somebody about this. So I can't remember who it was I talked to, but I was like, look, I said, you know, I don't mind doing it. I mean, I really like both. It was myself, Lance Storm, and Test, and those are 2 of my best friends. And I was like, look, I really like these guys, and I want to do something. But I mean, I'm just concerned about going back into a team situation. And they're like, why? I said, well, I guess I'm afraid that it's like a step back after taking a step. I just think I should still be progressing forward. Am I at where I should or want to be yet? Not even close. I said, but we're starting to take baby steps in that direction. To me, this is pulling me back, and then I'm just going to have to fight to get back to where I am now. And to me, it just seems a little counterproductive, you know. And, well, you know, we really are behind this idea, and we really like it, and this and that, and you know, Vince is going to get behind it. And I was like, okay, that's great. But to me, those things like that, it's like the RTC thing. It's like they only have a certain shelf life. You know, it's usually 8-10 months, you know, and it's just like, okay, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where, and then after that, it's like, we don't know what to do with you after that, you know, go home for a little while. I didn't want it to come to that point, so it was like, you know, I had long hair and all that sort of stuff, so we started doing it, and then it was like, oh, we don't really look the part, and they said it was hard for me to go out and be like an America basher. I hate America, because to me it was just such, you know, and I don't mind cheap heat, don't get me wrong, but it was like the cheapest of cheap heat, you know. It was just like, it's just so easy to go out and be mad every week. Oh, I hate this, I hate that, and USA sucks, and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it just wasn't me, and I didn't feel it. I was just like, man, this is not challenging for me. It's not a challenging character, it's not a challenging, it's, I need something more than this, you know, I need a more diverse character. And it was just like I said, I always tried to be professional. I always tried, whenever I go through that curtain, I always try to give 110% no matter what happened, whether I liked something, whether I didn't like something. I felt whenever I went through that curtain, I was 100% professional, and I always did what was asked of me, and that's what I did when I did it. And I mean, maybe it didn't come off like that because maybe, you know, I wasn't good at it, you know, and which is probably the case. And I know that I started to get a little bit of, you know, I don't know if these guys are really into it and this and that and blah, 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 especially myself and Andrew, who's Test. And, you know, they said, you know, we want you guys to look more the same. We want you to get haircuts like Lance and this and that. And myself and Test, we balked at it. You know, I was like, I really want to cut my hair. And it's a good opportunity, you know, to give you the line. It's a good opportunity. I said, I realized that. I said, but, you know, to me, I have had long hair for so long. And I said, when I change myself, I want to change myself for, and I want it to really mean something and be a bigger deal. I said, to me, you got 3 guys, and then all of a sudden, with no rhyme or reason, we're just going to walk out and just be different the next week. And, you know, you got 3 guys, and it's going to be kind of lost in that shuffle. And it's something that personally I felt wasn't going to be around in 8-10 months. Yeah. So it's like, to me, it was a throwaway. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself on this. I know I'm going to get heat, but this is something I believe in. And I wanted to cut my hair. I wanted to change, but I didn't want to do it for that. And so, you know, they were like, okay, you know, and then it was like, it was going to get turned in again something after that. It was like, you know, then a week after that, they were like, look, you know, what we're going to do is we're actually going to completely change this around. You guys are going to be called the All-Americans. You're going to come out, you'll be dressed in stars and stripes from head to toe. You're going to be, yeah, rah, 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 we're Americans, this and that, and so over the top baby faces that you're going to be heels. And we're like, so we're like, okay, sounds great. You know what I was, you know, I don't want to argue about this anymore. Let's do it, you know. So we're like, let's do it. I still wasn't going to cut my hair, but it was like, oh, I show up the next week, you know, we're just going to break you guys up. So we went out and they did a whole thing where they broke us up, and from talking to some people, I knew that I had heat, and I know Andrew had some heat, and I know Lance was just, you know, but Lance was Lance, and he was just a professional and did everything that was asked of him, and they brought Regal in, so they were going to continue teaming Lance and Regal together, and so they didn't have any plans for Andrew, right? So that worried me a little bit. I was like, damn, shit, but, you know, I can't be that scared because this is something that I believed in, and believed that this wasn't for me, and it wasn't what was going to define me as my career there, you know what I mean? So I was like, I didn't have any regrets, and I didn't feel bad about it. And I was like, whatever happens, I'll have to accept it. And then a couple weeks later, they were doing this Raw Roulette in Las Vegas, and they wanted to do a TLC match on. At the time on Raw, the only ones that were involved in TLC was from the previous tag team matches were myself, Jericho, Jeff Hardy, and Bubba Dudley. So I guess they said, hey, we got these guys. Let's have, you know, do something where, you know, each guys that were made the TLC match famous can pick a partner. So of course it was myself, it was Jeff, it and it was and Bubba, and did a little thing where Jericho and I got put together. Jericho basically came in and told me he's my partner, and I accepted. All right, went out, we did our thing. I had changed my outfit at that time. Went back to what I originally wore, which was like the Bret Hart style outfit. I used to wear the shirt and things like that, and so I was trying to change up a little bit, and then we started doing a little run. We had Chris and I had great chemistry, something along the lines of what Adam and I had, and we did that. And the next week we were in Montreal on Raw, showed up in the building, and AJ goes, "Okay, Chris and Jay, you guys are winning the belts tonight from Hurricane and Kenny Kane." We're like, "Really?" "Yeah, they thought you guys were great together last week." And Chris and I talked, like, "Yeah, this should be fun. This would be a good time," because we both were kind of in limbo as far as what we were doing. I knew that I already was kind of in the doghouse a little bit, and this could maybe, help me out in their eyes a little bit if I really, ran with this and did the best I could and worked really hard with it. And Chris is one of my best friends, so we were just like, "Man, this sounds like fun. Let's just go do this." And we went. Him and I had a great run together. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of entertaining stuff, and the stuff with the towels and where our clothes got stolen from the Dudleys and all that kind of stuff. And it was just, and that was a crazy night that night. It was supposed to be, we came back from the worst tour I've ever been on. We went to India, and a couple of the guys got sick.
Is that the tour that Regal got sick on?
Yeah, and so did Booker T. And what happened was we came back, we were working with Booker and Goldust at the time. And they were really starting to get good reaction. We were having great matches with those guys, and we were supposed to work with them and then eventually, keep going with them. And I would assume, drop the belts to those guys. And then what happened was it was literally 30 minutes before we went live. Booker got sick. This virus hit him, and he was just like dehydrated. They had to put him on an IV. He couldn't walk. He was like blurred vision. He was just like in a bad way. So we're just like, they came in like, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" Blah, blah, blah. And somebody said, "What about the Dudleys?" Dudleys were had a match on Heat. They pulled them out, and they were just like, "Look, this is what we're doing." We were the first match on the show. Now we got about 15 minutes before the show starts, and this call goes back to call, like I talked about before. Sometimes it's better to call things in the ring. We're like, we came back, and I said 15 minutes before the show started. We're all sitting in a room. We're like, okay, it's kind of, what's like? We had all these promo segments, like these backstage segments all throughout the night that ended up in a promo segment in the ring where we get our towels stolen. So it was a long night, and it was like we were the thread of the show. We were like pretty much in every other segment, and it was. I just remember we're sitting in this room, and it was just us, and we're trying to talk. All of a sudden, Jericho gets up and screams at the top of his lungs, "All right, everybody, just shut up!" And we're just like, "Listen, we gotta calm down in here, guys. We need to sit down and figure out what's going on." And we're all just sitting there calm. We're all just like, he's like, "All right, I think I just need to get that off my chest." And then he sat back down, and we're just like, "Okay, this is what we got. We got the 3D. We got the what's up. Blah 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 blah. Let's go out and do it." Boom, we walked away. We saw him out there. We ended up going like 20 minutes, and the match was pretty good from what I remember. And I'm sure if it sucked up, it would stick out like a sore thumb. But I said we did that whole night. It was basically on the fly.
Really?
It was one of those entertaining. It was a fun night. It was fun to do it like that.
Were you guys coming up with the stuff, or were the writers?
Well, we were just like, "Look, this is what we need in this thing." 9 times out of 10, Chris and I, were the same as myself and Adam, where it was just like we would do things to entertain each other, thinking that if it entertains us, it's going to entertain somebody else. So pretty much anything you saw Chris and I say, it was us saying it. And it was just us, like, stuff that we actually do to each other in real life and say, we would end up saying on camera. So it was like, it was one of those things where it was like, we just get guys, come out of the shower, ask these guys if they've seen your clothes, question them as to why. Dudley's a commitment. Okay, we're live in like a minute. We're live in a minute. So it's like, okay, we're all sitting there. So we walk out, we just kind of ad-lib it, and just go. And it worked, and it was like, every time, we didn't know what we were doing to the next one leading up to it, It was like, we go to the next one, and it's like, okay, this is what we got in this one. We'll have just, say whatever. We just, that's
so the story was really telling itself.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was a fun night, man. That was one of the funnest nights of my career. I made a good time, and Chris and I did some ridiculous stuff. We had a lot of fun, and it was cool. And what was I talking about before that? I got on
the hair.
Oh, the hair. Get back to the hair. So then, then eventually, we got to I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit. I got to the stuff that I was doing with The Rock and this and that, and kind of reinventing myself again as a singles guy. And now I'm starting to think to myself, okay, this is the time where I change. This is the time. In hindsight, I maybe should have done it when Edge and I split up. I should have probably came out the night after, just shaved head, looked completely different, just been a different guy, but I didn't think that way. I probably should have at that point. That's my fault. But fast forward, I was like, okay, this is the time.
So in the end, it was your call?
Yeah, I was like, this is the time I'm going to cut my hair. So it was like I was leaving, and I saw Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis before I left, and I said, Johnny, I said, I'm going to cut my hair this week. And he's like, you are? I was like, yeah. I said, I think it's time. And he said, all right, whatever. And then, so I woke up the next morning, flew home. I landed in Florida, getting on the train to go over and get my bags. My phone rings. It was John. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, hello? He's like, don't cut your hair. Don't cut your hair. And I was like, what? He's like, you haven't cut your hair yet. I said, no, I'm not even out of the airport yet. He goes, don't cut your hair. I was like, well, why not? He said, we got plans. We want you to eventually do it. Just don't do it now. I can't explain. Don't cut your hair. I was like, I'm confused now. They wanted me to cut it now. So I was like, okay, don't worry, I won't cut it. So then it worked out that went on. They brought the Intercontinental title back. I ended up winning the Intercontinental title when they brought it back. And the next night after that, I came out as a brand new different guy with just the short hair and all that stuff. So it worked out.
Good. You mentioned the angle that you did with The Rock as The Rock's favorite wrestler. What's your memories of that angle?
I think that we were talking about Brian before, and Brian worked with The Rock a lot. And he was instrumental in actually a lot of The Rock's promos and stuff like that as far as ideas and things. And I think that when Rock was coming back for a short time, he saw some entertaining things with my personality and Rock's personality doing some things together, so he thought they'd make for some interesting backstage things. So this one, I came into, I think, with a copy of Scorpion King, and I asked him for an autograph and this and that. And we had some banter back and forth, and we just kind of ad-libbed some stuff back and forth a little bit. And he kind of had just said, he goes, that's something bothered me about you. He was, I always liked you. You're one of my favorite wrestlers, and but you never seize the moment. You need to seize the moment. That's kind of how that all started. And then it was like kind of just snowballed from there. It's like, hey, we should go with this. And I kind of when because Rock couldn't be there every week, he was doing some movie stuff, so I kind of talked for him while he's gone, and it just kind of went from there. And Goldberg was there and doing some stuff with him. And actually, I think one of the last matches I had with my long hair was against Goldberg in a cage match, and so we we're doing some stuff with that, and like I said, the segments I thought were just pretty entertaining. Even when Rock was there, I would do something backstage where I was on the phone with him. I'd be like, hey, we talking, I'm your favorite wrestler, stuff like that. And it was just kind of helping me out too. And I think that that Rock wanted to help guys out too, and that because he knew he wasn't going to be there all the time. So if he could come back and help somebody and raise their level up a little bit, that he was more than happy to do it. So it was a good opportunity for me, and jumped on it, and we just started to go from there. And that's kind of how the whole Peeps thing came about also.
Okay. How was working with Goldberg?
It was fine. I mean, I never had a problem with Bill. He was he came in and we worked a couple times, and I think after working with me a lot, he realized that I was I always viewed myself as being very unselfish in the ring, especially wrestling as a heel. I always was of the mind that my opponent should look better than I do, and I always made sure that happened. And I felt that I could make I was very confident that I could make anybody look like $1 million, and that was what I did best. So that's what I did with him. It was no different. We had a couple, like a tag match or something, and did a cage match that I thought was good. My experiences were fine.
Was he appreciative of you?
Yeah, no, he was really cool to me. He was very cool to me. And I know that there were some things talked about his personality, but all I can talk about is from personal experience. And he was always nice to me. And I remember him talking to me because I remember we were going over something once, and he was, man, I just find it fascinating how you could just come up with these things so fast. Tell you something, you just throwing back ideas. He was just fascinates me, and he was very kind to me and very appreciative. It seemed to for that. So.
Very cool. Now, there was an injury in April 2004, right? That caused you to miss some time.
Yeah.
Okay. But what happened with that?
Yeah, what happened was I have a, it was funny because leading up to the couple weeks before, I would keep hitting I thought it was my sciatic nerve in my lower back, and cause your leg, a little numbness in the legs and stuff like that when you pinch it, and it usually goes away in a day or two. So I was just, thinking that, I kept, every night, I would tweak it, and I'm just like, man, something's wrong with my back, and I think it's a sciatic nerve, I'll be fine, wrestler mentality, I'll be fine, just need a couple days and it'll be okay, and blah, blah, blah. So I got to San Jose, and I was wrestling a cage match against Jericho, and he suplexed me off the top top rope, and I over-rotated a little bit and kind of came down on my ass, and I felt it go, and I was like, ah, man, there it goes again, just thinking sciatic nerve, and it was, I felt it, and it was like, it was fine. I told the trainer, and went back and iced it and stuff, and showered up, and I left, and I had a flight out that night. I had to go to Los Angeles to do some things, because we were in San Jose, and I had a flight out, it was 12:30 a.m. or something, and West Coast, the show was live, so we were done at it was 8 o'clock, I think. Yeah, 8 o'clock we were done, so I had a couple hours to kill, so I went out to PF Chang's for a bite to eat, actually with Brian Gortz, and we were sitting there eating and shooting the breeze and talking. All of a sudden I was just really uncomfortable as I was sitting there, and I was shifting back and forth, and all of a sudden I couldn't sit on the right side of my body. I started to lose feeling in my right leg. And he's like, man, are you all right? I was like, no. I said, I'm pretty messed up, actually. I said, I can't feel my leg. And he's like, man, really? Are you all right? I said, no. I said, this is an evening thing. I said, I think I'll be fine. And then, so we ate, and got up, paid the bill, we got up to leave, and as I went to stand up, I couldn't get up. And we're in the middle of this packed restaurant in downtown San Jose, and I'm just like, man, I can't friggin' move. And I was just like, dude, man, I'm just like, I was in pain, and I couldn't stand up. I couldn't stand up straight, and I was like, I think you're gonna have to carry me out of this restaurant. And he's just a little dude, he's like, 150 pounds soaking wet, and 5'7", 5'8", small guy, and so I put my arm around him. He's people are staring, and he's basically carrying me out of this restaurant. I couldn't walk, and he was just like, and we made it to the car somehow, and I was like, look, I don't think I'm gonna be able to walk through the airport tonight. I can't walk. You have to drop me off at a hotel somewhere. So took me and dropped me off at a hotel, and he's like, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I feel good now. I'm all right. And which was a lie. I mean, I couldn't walk. And he's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, go. So he left, and all I had was my bag. So now I'm using my bags as like a walker, and I'm trying to walk in. People are staring at me as I'm walking into this. I think it was like a DoubleTree or something. I'm walking in, and I got my room, and finally get to the elevator. I go up, and I turn the wrong way and went down to the wrong end of the hall. And I'm just like cursing myself into the hall. I had to go all the way back, so I'm like, so I opened the door, I dropped my bags, and I crawled on my hands and knees to the bed. And I got up, and I just laid on the bed, and like in my clothes, I couldn't move. And then in the morning, I woke up, and I was like, I called, changed my flight, and again, it was like wasn't any better in the morning. So I was like, I got on my hands and knees, and I literally crawled on my hands and knees to the elevator, down the hall into the the convenience store that's in the hotel, and I was looking for something like deep heat or something to rub on it, maybe loosen the muscles up or something. So this time I thought it was from my sciatic nerve, right? So I was like, the only thing they had was Ben Gay. Yeah. So here I'm buying Ben Gay, now I'm crawling back up to my room, rubbing Ben Gay on my back, and it's like, it loosened up a little bit, and I was like, okay, a little bit. So I tried to walk it off. So I finally got where I could walk with just a bad limp. So here I am limping. I go to Los Angeles and had some things I was doing there, and it was on I had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I was supposed to leave for a house show. So Thursday rolls around and it's not any better. And I thought just the day's rest, a couple of days would make it better, and it was like getting worse. I couldn't sit down. If I was driving, my leg would go numb, and I would actually have to kind of I had to hold my leg up as I was putting cruise control. I actually had to hold my leg up, and just because of the pain I was in, it was just weird. So finally I called our trainer on Thursday and said, look, I thought it was going to go away. It's not going to go away. I'm messed up pretty bad. I said, I don't know what's wrong with my back. And then, so they sent me in for an MRI, set it up for that Thursday afternoon. luckily squeezed me in. So I went to some doctor in Los Angeles and had an MRI and all that sort of thing. And he was leaving, so I was like, can I have the film? So he gave me the film. And I took it with me and he said, look, go do the house show, Lou. But we'll just have Tom go wrestle in your place and you stay in the corner. So that's what I did. And got back to San Diego, which was where Raw was the next week. And then we had it set up that I would go meet with a doctor in San Diego and he'd read the MRI reports. And it was funny because I had like two of them. Like one guy was in the room with me, he left and he came back with two other guys. And they came in, they're all just like, I was looking on their face like, how old are you? I was like, 31. They're like, was I 30 or 30? I don't know, it was like 30 or 31, something like that. So they were like, there's a good possibility you're going to have to retire. And I was like, blown away. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, your back's, looks pretty bad. And I was like, really? So obviously I was just stunned, I was like, what are you talking about, and they're saying, yeah, you have this, all the vertebrae that line up along your back, my bottom one, the L5, is out 50%. So they're all lined up, but this one's sticking out like this, and it was pinching all the nerves that were going down my right leg, and it's causing a lot of damage, and it was basically disintegrated the disc that was underneath it. And he's like, man, because my recommendation is not to wrestle anymore. And I was like, okay, thanks. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, I'm obviously going to get a second opinion, right? So I leave, I go back to the arena, and he said, what was the thing? So the doctor says I should retire. They're like, what? I said, yeah, I'm going to get a second opinion. Yeah, well, so we're talking, and they're like, so you think you can get thrown out of a battle royal tonight? And I was like,
who said that to you?
I can't even remember. I was like, are you serious? And they're like, well, yeah, it's just a battle. I said, if I'm going to miss time, how's my back sort of? If I'm going to miss time, don't you think it'd be better to miss time from getting beat up in a cage match rather than getting thrown out of a battle royal? Like, you're probably right. I said, yeah, thanks. I think I'm right on this one. So that's what we did. I didn't end up wrestling in the battle royal, and it was like, so then I went back to a doctor in Tampa, and at this point I'd heard from the doctor in Los Angeles, and he didn't think it was something I needed to retire about, but he saw there was a possibility of having a surgery, which would be the same as the neck fusion surgery, but at the trunk, at the waist. And it's actually harder to come back from because it supports the whole upper body. And same thing the doctor here in Tampa said. He's like, there's a possibility you may have to have a surgery, but so maybe we can get this thing with some strong therapy. And what we'll do is we'll just have you, we'll strengthen all the core muscles around your injury to try and protect it as much as possible, and avoid anything that would compress it, like anything you fall on your rear that would compress it. You have to steer clear of that sort of thing. Anything that can land flat is fine. So let's try to do that first, avoid cutting you, because it's probably going to be a year recovery time at least. And I was like, okay, well, let's do that. So they didn't want me to fly for 4 or 5 weeks. Just sitting in that position would aggravate it. So of course I couldn't go on the road, and I was bummed out because the thing that bummed me out is that in all my time wrestling, I never missed a match because of an injury. So I had a lot of pride in that, and a lot of pride that I never missed a show, with WWE because of an injury. And I remember calling Johnny, and I was like, look, I said, I think I can still come to TV and do things and this and that. And he said, no, they don't want you to fly. You can't travel. Charles going to just stay home, get healthy, do your therapy. And I was like, yeah, but it's just 1 day a week. He's like, you can't fly, don't you understand that? And I said, well, what about the European show? Well, I've taken you off for my Tom on your place. I was like, well, just let me come. It's a charter. I can lay down on the aisle. I don't have to sit down. He's like, God, he goes, just accept that you're hurt. He said, I know it's hard for you to accept. You're hurt. Stay home. Get better. You're not going to do anybody good if you make it worse. Stay home. And I was like, all right. So it was like I said, it was a hard thing to get used to. I missed 4 months, and it's like, for me, I'm just used to being gone all the time, and it was just, but the thing is, I was off, but I wasn't off because every day I went to therapy, and I was in therapy, man, they kicked my ass, and it was just like, it was really hard, and I remember I wasn't allowed to lift weights or do any cardio for the time I was doing that because they didn't want anything else to hinder, and if something was bothering the injury, they want to know that it was something I had to adjust with the therapy, not with something that was going on with the weights or the cardio or anything. So I wasn't allowed to do any of that stuff. So, but then, man, those things workouts enough, man, they just killed me. And they started off at a low level, and they went all the way up to like 5 or 6 levels or something like that. And 8 weeks later, they were like, "Hey, you finished the therapy?" And I was like, "Yeah, great." And they're like, "Yeah, you're the only athlete that's ever finished." And I said, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we had lots of lots of guys from the lot of golfers and boxers and baseball players, all these sorts of guys, because they were in St. Petersburg, and there was everybody else, they cut out around the third or fourth level. You were the only one that finished. And I was like, man, if you had told me that, I would have left. They're like, that's why we didn't tell you. And I was like, okay. So they got my picture up there at the thing, which was pretty cool. They were really great to me and really helped me fix the injury without having to have surgery. So it hasn't. It only bothered me once since I had when I came back. It wasn't long after I came back. I had a singles match with Shawn Michaels in Madison Square Garden, and he backdropped me off the top rope, and which is a pretty high bump. And I kind of came down on my side, and I felt it go again. And of course, I panicked right away. And then we were jumping right on a bus, going straight to the airport, and flying right over to Europe for like 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. I just remember thinking, God, it's going to happen to me. I don't want to get surgery. I was freaking out. But as soon as I got back, I iced it, did everything I could have got to the plane. And as soon as we took off, I laid down, so I wasn't in a seated position. I iced it the whole trip, and it never bothered me again after that. So, knock on wood, it hasn't bothered me.
And then we were into the Captain Charisma era.
Yeah.
Where did the whole Captain Charisma nickname come from?
Well, first let me talk about the Peeps thing and then go to Captain Charisma.
Okay.
The Peeps thing kind of happened along the time that I was doing the stuff with Rock. And what happened was I was going out and I was doing a promo on Bill Goldberg, talking about how nobody wanted him there. That he was coming and taking a spot from somebody, blah, blah, blah. And that I was talking about how I was, quote unquote, I was the new People's Champion, and that Rock has basically anointed me the new People's Champion, and these are my people now, and all this sort of thing. But I was just like, and they had in the promo, I had some bullet points, and one of the bullet points was they wanted me to talk about how I was the People's Champion, and these are my people, and I was just like, man. So I started thinking about it. I said, man, I know it has to be in the same vein as that kind of rock-esque kind of thing, but I don't want it to be a complete rip-off, because anything other than the original is just not the same. And especially when you're talking about a guy like Rock, who will never be duplicated because nobody's that good, as he is on the mic and things like that. So it's just, there's no way. And it's just not going to work, and people, to me, will shit all over it. So I was like, how can I do this? Make it the same, but make it my own, make it different. And I was just thinking, what can I do? I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to say this. I mean, this is what they want, this is what they're gonna get, So I was like, I was at the curtain, and it hit me at the curtain. I was talking about the stuff that Jericho and I and Hurricane, all these guys that would say stuff to each other backstage. And at that time, we were talking about how, he's my peeps, it's my peeps, it's my peeps, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna say. And I went out the curtain. Literally 30 seconds before I went to the curtain, I thought of it. And I went out and I said it, and the crowd reacted. And I guess they reacted in the truck and came back, and I was like, everyone laughed when he said it. And thought it was pretty cool. Next week we show up on TV, peep signs in the crowd. And once you see that, you know that you can run with it. And snowball from there. That's how the peeps thing came about. And it was just like, I said, luckily I thought about it before I went out there. But the Captain Charisma thing, it was like, I came up with that when I was off injured, and when I missed the time for the injury, and it was really hard for me at first to watch the show, to watch Raw, to watch SmackDown, just because I felt like I was an important part of the show, and to watch it and not be there, it was strange for me, not missing any time. It was just like I was away, and it was like, oh man, forget about me, it was like weird, and the more I watched, the more I started thinking about, okay, I need to be a little different when I come back. Can't be the exact same Christian that was when I went away. I need to have something different. And I started thinking to myself, I always viewed me as a heel being along the lines of Shawn Michaels' heel, where he was like, he's not a little guy, but he's not a big guy. He's kind of that guy that's there, he's in between, and he's like, to me, Shawn could bump like a madman, he still can. He's still great. And but that was always the kind of heel I envisioned myself being, kind of along the lines of Shawn Michaels, how he was in his prime, as a heel. And I was like, man, that's how I need to be, like that. And it's like, and then I started thinking about things to make my name a little more catchy, a little more different. And it's sort of thinking about, like Shawn Michaels is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. I need a moniker, I need a handle, I need something else to go along with just Christian. It's really, at this point, just a little bit plain. And so the more I thought about it, and I don't know how I came up with it, but I said it, and I was with my wife, and we were cooking something in the kitchen one night, and I said, hey, let me ask you a question. And she was like, what? I said, what do you think of the name Captain Charisma? She goes, for what? I said, for my nickname. She goes, oh, it's terrible, I hate it. I said, that's perfect, I'm using it. And then when I went back, I didn't tell anybody I was going to say it. And it was my first.
So you didn't have to clear it with anybody?
I didn't want to clear it with anybody. It was just something I wanted to say, I wanted to do. So it was like, I just figured out where I could slip it in. And when I was doing a promo with Eric Bischoff, Edge had to relinquish the IC belt because he gotten hurt. Actually, I started a few weeks before I was supposed to start. I'd actually just come back from to do some house shows, and I was actually about to go home. I was going to go to TV, and they called me, don't go home, we need you at TV, because Edge had been hurt. And so they kind of inserted me in there with Chris for the Intercontinental title match, and it was a promo with him when I sent it. And I was called myself Captain Charisma, and when they later in the show, Tomko wrestled Jericho, and I interfered and all this, and JR had called me Captain Charisma a couple times, and that's how it came out.
Okay. Now, at that time, you started really gaining some momentum with the fans too. Even though you're a heel, you could tell you had momentum. Yeah. Did you feel that there was a glass ceiling or anything holding you down? There's a lot of talk about the glass ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's one of those things where it's like you don't know for sure. Because you're not in the meetings and you're not. It's hard to get a straight answer sometimes, things like that. So it was like I didn't know. I started to get to the point where it's like, what? I'm tired of. The more I try to figure it out, the more I just don't understand. Because the philosophy was, it's not up to us, it's up to you, it's up to the fans. We let the fans decide who they want to move on. And I felt that I was getting some of the strongest reactions on the show. And at one point my T-shirt was selling up there with Cena and Mysterio were the top T-shirt on the Shop Zone. I think for 3 or 4 weeks straight, my shirt was #1 after I had done the little thing I did with Batista in England. Did a couple-week thing with him on TV. And right after that, my T-shirt sales shot up, and it was like I was doing some good things, and I was starting to get like babyface cheers and stuff like that, but I wasn't changing anything, so it was just like even Vince came up to me one day and he's like, "Hey, what's with these babyface cheers you're getting?" I said, "I don't know, man." I said, "I guess when you're I don't know." I said some sarcastic quip back to him that he laughed at and kept going, but it was it was a weird time. It was a fun time, and it was like I really felt the momentum starting to go, and especially when I started talking about John Cena and stuff like that, and I was like, hey man, this is, fans are starting to really react here, and it's like, I started getting the feeling that maybe they're going to send me to SmackDown to work with Cena, which would be great, because I think I could have some great matches with him, and I think the promo stuff would be unbelievable, and like I said, at the time, and even now, I felt like I could, as a heel especially, I honestly think that's my strong point. I think much better heel than babyface, but it was, I felt like I could go out there and have a good match with anybody and pull something special out of anybody. Not that he needed it, because I think that John's a lot better than people give him credit for, and it's. It was one of those things I was really looking forward to doing, and then it all just kind of changed and switching around, and he ends up on Raw. We went out and did that promo on Raw, which had a really strong reaction. I was like, man, okay, we're going to do it here. And next thing you know, Jericho's thrown in the mix, and it's made a triple threat, and it's just like, they never even gave the fans the match. That's the thing, even if it was just on Raw or something, just give the fans the match. They wanted to see it.
Did you ever ask them why?
I did, and they were saying, well, it doesn't fit what's going on. And they said it was hard to get a straight answer, and things are moving so fast, and I think we're going to get to it, or no, now we're not, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, it was hard to get a straight answer, and I just really, and I started to get a little bit frustrated, and frustrated to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm not even going to ask anymore, I'm just going to go and do whatever. And it's it was just that.
So you're kind of your spirit was getting a little bit broken?
A little bit, not broken, but it was like, they could never break my confidence. I always knew. I was always 100% confident in myself. I was just a little frustrated at the point where it's like, and it wasn't even selfish. It wasn't like I'm the best. I want to be. I just felt I wanted to be in a position where if somebody beat me, it really meant something. It could help out the person that was beating me. But I was beat endlessly, so it was like it meant nothing. And that was just I I just felt that I could really help out and make the show entertaining, and especially when I moved to SmackDown. And I don't know what happened. And then I said I could talk about it and try to discuss it. Well, this could happen, and drive myself crazy. But everything happens for a reason. And what happened. I really wish I could tell you exactly. This is why it didn't happen. This is what happened. This is how it was viewed. I can't tell you for sure because I don't know.
When did you start getting a feeling that it might be time for you to move on from WWE?
I think that not long after I moved to SmackDown.
Okay, so after
I was led to believe that when I went to SmackDown, I was really going to be given a good chance. And like I said, I didn't expect anything to be handed to me. I never expected, you're a top guy, here you are. I never expected that to happen. I felt like I've been there for 8 years. I felt that I busted my ass. I was a guy that they had on every house show. Never asked for a day off. Only missed that time 4 months for an injury once, and I was, I felt like I was a workhorse, and I just wanted to one chance with the ball, just to take and sit here and run and see what happens. And if I had dropped it, I'd have been the first one to turn around, hand it back, and say, hey, I tried, it didn't work. I'll do whatever you want to do. But I just wanted the opportunity. That's all I wanted. And it was like, they let me play with the ball for a little while, but I always felt like when it was about time to run, they'd give us our ball back. And I never.
It never gave you.
It never gave me a full run with the ball, and it was, to me that just baffled me. It's like, what's the harm? I mean, I tried it with so many other times where things sometimes it, throw something against the wall, sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. This is the way it is. But I mean, how do you know unless you try?
Yeah.
And just at the end there, it was like I felt myself starting to become a little bit bitter, and I'm not a bitter person, and I don't want to be bitter, and I wanted to be a guy that could help the product and help other guys. And the funny thing is a lot of guys, especially the younger guys, would come to me, and it was a great honor for me. The guys have asked me for advice and asked me things and talked to me about things, and not even about wrestling, just even about life and stuff like that. And it was really cool that I felt like I had a good rapport in the locker room with those guys, and even the veterans that were there, to be a veteran myself at that point. And it was like I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to get to a point where I could help the product and help the guys. Not like I felt like I deserved anything. I just felt like I worked hard enough, and I felt like I earned it. And it didn't happen. And like I said, I started to become a little bit bitter, and I just I don't want to be like this. You know what I mean? And it's not like they were trying to shove me out the door. I was offered a new deal and all that sort of thing, but it was just like one of those things. I was like, when I look back on my time in WWE, I want to be able to look back and say, hey, I lived my dream for 8 years. It was a great time. I had some great matches, great memories, made some great friends, and made great money. And but it's I want to be able to look back and say that was awesome, rather than look back and say I fucking hate that place and everybody there, blah blah blah. Because I don't want to be like that. So it was like I'm just. Thank you very much, and it was just time to move on.
Okay. We'll talk more about the end of WWE, but first looking at the switch to SmackDown. Were you surprised when they wanted to switch brands with you?
No, not really. I think, my honest opinion, I don't know this for sure, I think they wanted to switch Jericho and put Jericho on SmackDown, but he had decided to, when his contract was up, to leave. And that's why I think they decided to put me over there. And like I said, at the time I had some good momentum going. And
do you think it hurt your momentum switching brands?
I don't think so. I think that it could have helped. And the funny thing is right before that, I was wrestling Batista, who at the time, and I love working with Dave, and I know Dave loved working with me. And it was we had a show in England. We did the show. I did a promo, did a bunch of backstage things. When it came time for the match, there was very loud Christian chants in the crowd. Let's go Christian, let's go Christian. That at some points were kind of drowning out the Batista chants. And when I came back, Dave was like, damn, who's the babyface out there? And he goes, did you hear that? And I was like, it's crazy. And he's like, man, it's like, hey, you need to do something with it, And it was like, if he heard it, I know I heard it, I know other people heard it. This is like, I can't, the people who need to hear it. It's just like, it's...
What don't you think they hear?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like, I don't know whether I've been trying to play my mind where it's like, the first time they ever set eyes on you and say, hey, this guy's going to be a star. Or for the first time, I was like, I don't know, maybe not. You know what I mean? It's like, some guys I just had pegged and they're just going to keep going for that person until it happens because they haven't pegged to be a star.
Yeah.
Whereas in my case, maybe the first time I've never said that. I mean, I don't know for sure. That's just speculation, but it could be. So you never know.
Did you see going to SmackDown as going to like the B show? I've heard before that guys.
No, I mean I was actually really excited about it.
Okay.
And I was just like, to me, it was opportunity. And I was just like, man, I said, I just came out, like I said, I just finished that thing with Batista where I was getting great reactions. I had good matches with Dave. Right into the stuff with Cena that I was doing that was garnering good reactions, even though we weren't on the same show. Ended up being a triple threat match. I thought the match was very good. I was very proud of it, and not to mention the fact that it was my first title shot on a pay-per-view in one of the main events. There was 2 main events and one of the main events of the show. Which to me, it was a great honor to be able to be in one of the main events of the show and to be in a title match. And after that match, I came back, I was getting changed, and they came in and told me, there was a super show the next night in Anaheim. And they said, you're going to wrestle on Raw. It's going to be your last night because right after that, you're going to SmackDown. And that's literally, nobody knew anything until it was in those drafts. They keep everything under lock and key. Nobody knows until right up till. When Cena came to Raw, I didn't know it was Cena until right before the show.
Yeah.
So it was like I said, everything was really under wraps. So, and then when I came out for that match, got a great reaction. And during that match, it was like a 5-way elimination thing. It was JBL, Benoit, Booker, Taker, Hassan, and myself. There had to be one more.
I don't know.
Oh, 6 guys. Yeah, so that was me. So there was 6, and then they after got down to the last guys, which were myself, Booker, Benoit, JBL. Came out of those 5 guys. The fans started to chant Christian, and it was weird. I don't know if there was just the excitement of seeing somebody new on a new show, but the surprise of it. But it was like, it was the same night as I just wrestled on Raw because it was a super show. So it was like they just seen me 2 hours before. So it was, so I was like really excited. I was really excited about going to SmackDown. I was like, man, this show, it's got a lot of potential. It's wide open. And I'm really looking forward to getting there and helping out and stepping up and just get the opportunity to just, really do some good things on there. And I said, I thought they had a lot of great young talent and that could help develop and like I said, get myself in that position where if somebody beats me, it means something. And again, I got over there and it just right away, it just started to fall back to the way I was, and I couldn't get any answers as to why or to whatever. And it was just, like I said, it started to come not long after that where I was like, man, maybe it's time to go away and do some other things. And, look at some other prospects in life.
How was the Raw locker room atmosphere compared to the SmackDown locker room atmosphere?
The funny thing is I'm kind of one of those guys that I felt like I got along with everybody, and it was like, it was funny because Shelton used to tell me, he was like, you remind me of the kid in high school where it's like, you want to hate the guy, but you can't hate him because he's going to say something about you in front of everybody, and everybody's going to laugh at you. So you got to like him. He's like, but Shelton and I are really good friends. We just talked yesterday, but I felt like I had a good rapport with all the guys, and I felt like I got along really well with everybody, and I had a really good, I joked around and made people laugh. I was just trying to be really like, because a lot of times you're spending more time with these guys than you're spending with your own family, so I just really try to make it a good atmosphere where it was like everyone's, loose and having fun and kind of laughing, and especially on house shows, where it's just, just have a few laughs, and these are times that you're going to look back and wish we had again, kind of thing. And it was like, and like at the end, I wasn't feeling that anymore. I was much more serious and much more, finding myself hard to do that sort of thing, and that's when I kind of realized it was, time to pack it in. But as far as the atmosphere goes, I didn't really see, like I said, I got along pretty much with everybody, so I didn't really see a huge difference. There was a difference, but it's hard to really put a finger on it. It's like, SmackDown was definitely a little more laid back, and a little more easygoing. I don't know if that's because the show was taped or whatever, but Raw was always a little bit more, a little more high school. Everyone got along, but it was a little bit more serious on that side.
How about the writing teams? Were there any big differences between them?
Yeah, I think they all collaborate. I felt Raw was stronger as far as writing goes, to be honest with you. I thought they were a little more creative. Had guys and knew where guys were going in better situations. I just didn't think on SmackDown they booked ahead. They didn't have a goal. We want to get here, book backwards. They were just like, okay, we'll do this week. It was like by the seat of your pants, and I just didn't understand that. And I just at some points felt the SmackDown writing was a little not very creative.
Did you have a lot of creative control over your stuff? And
Not that I had creative control, but I always tried to have input. You know,
and like your talk show segment.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to have to be pretty hands-on with that kind of stuff. And like when I was on Raw, like I said, I trusted Brian. Brian trusted me as far as the things that were going on and stuff like that. But it was, like I said, I just think the Raw writing is a little stronger than SmackDown.
Did they give you a lot of leeway with
the Peep Show stuff? Yeah, they gave me some leeway, stuff like that. Just sometimes I didn't think there was enough time for it. Yeah. I felt like could have been a little bit more time and a little more intro into the show rather than just getting right into it, And at some points I can see where it's not needed, where it's like we don't want the thing to drag out. I'm like, how do these guys shut up? Because I've always been, I never liked going out and doing long promos. I always felt that if you go out there and you talk and you talk and you talk and you talk, it's people like, God, this guy just shut up. He just keeps talking, and it's like enough where it's like next time you see him talk, man, this guy's gonna come out and talk again. I don't want to see this guy talk anymore, And it's like rather than just go out, say what you gotta say, and leave him wanting a little bit more, where it's like, man, I can't wait to see that guy talk again. Just enough where it's like not drawn out, but just enough where it's like it maybe could be a little bit longer. But it's just enough where it's like, man, I want to see this guy talk some more. That's always kind of been my philosophy on that. So maybe in some respects it was better. I don't know. That the segment didn't have such a long lead-in.
Now, a subject that was bound to come up. A bunch of your friends, of course, Matt Hardy, Edge, and Lita, they had a very private situation that turned very public. What was your whole take on that whole situation?
Well, see, that's the hilarious thing to me is that it's like people ask me about it no matter what interview or whatever it is I do, like I had something to do with it. What's going on? The thing is, to be honest with you, 100% honest, I don't know. Of course I know just as much as everybody else knows, and the thing is that it's a touchy situation when you have a bunch of people that you have a personal relationship with, and I chose not to get involved in it, and let the people that are involved be involved, and that's pretty much all that needs to be said. And all those are pretty much the only people that need to be involved in it, because if you start getting involved in it, then one person's going to be mad at you, the other person's going to be mad at you, and then it just turns into a whole big thing. And I just, like I said, I want to remain friends with the parties involved, and I just try not to form an opinion about it and to get involved in it, because and when I talk to those people, I don't bring it up, I don't talk about it. It's not my business, and I don't think it's anybody's business.
Did they ever try to work you against the other or anything like that?
No, never. And I made my feelings clear that it's something that I didn't want to be a part of, and I think that was appreciated, to be honest.
So you washed your hands of it.
It's not my business.
Yeah. So. I got you. All right. Now, of course, there's the whole leaving WWE. You've touched on it before. Can you give us a timeline of events that led to it happening?
When it led to me leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, I started to get a little bit bitter. I didn't want to be a bitter guy. Like I said, like I touched on before, it was like I didn't want to become negative, and I didn't want to not have fun anymore going to work, and it was like, to me, when I look back at my years before, everything was so much fun, and I had such a good time, and it started to not be fun anymore. And especially my body was hurting. I was tired. I was starting to get to the point where, being on the road 8 years straight, I just felt like I was just coming home, doing laundry, packing my bags again, paying some bills, and leaving. It was getting to the point where I put my bag in front of the thing, washed my clothes, and put the same clothes back in the bag because I couldn't be bothered to pack anymore. I was just so tired of packing bags that it was like, and so it was it was a tough time, and like I said, I think that maybe if things had been going in the direction that I would had hoped they were going in. It may have swayed my decision, but I think everything just kind of happening at once was just like, you know what? I mean, like I said before, I just wanted to leave with good memories and not be the bitter guy, and especially not for the guys in the locker room. I mean, there doesn't need to be any negativity, especially when you're trying to get business back to where it was in years past, you know. And it's just like, you know, and I felt like I could have, in some ways, helped do that. Not saying that I was the answer in any way, but I felt that I could have been, you know, an important cog in the machine. And it's you know, I just, like I said, I felt like I saved my money and I was smart with it, and I had some other things going on. I had some other prospects outside the business that were very enticing to me, and things
acting
and doing some other stuff. So it was like, you know what, I mean, I took a chance to try to become a wrestler. I mean, maybe it's just time to step back and do some other stuff and kind of evaluate my life and where I stand right now, and you know, I mean, I don't want to not love wrestling, you know, I mean, and I don't want to get to the point where I hate it, and it's like, you know, I mean, like I said, because wrestling's given me everything in my life. Everything I have is thanks to wrestling, you know. And it's you know, there was a time I never thought I'd own my own car, let alone, you know, the things that I have and things I've been fortunate enough to do and see and have. And I feel like, you know, so like I said, I just wanted to just kind of cut it before I got to out of control. And it was, fortunately, it was at the time where my contract was coming up, and there was a new contract, new offer on the table, a 3-year deal, and I know there was a lot of reports and stuff that they were trying to cut my money, and that I was only making so much. And the funny thing is, they weren't even close to the, you know, what I made over my downside. The numbers weren't even close at these things that people were saying, which was hilarious to me, that everybody knew what my contract was. But they weren't trying to cut my money by any means. But the only you know, it was just something, like I said, you know, I mean, 3 more years of I don't know where it's going to go, and the way I'm feeling, my body's beat up, I'm tired, I'm a little frustrated, and a little bitter at that point. Maybe it's time, like I said, it's time, something to be said for me is walking away on your own rather than being told when it's time to leave, and that's I felt was the right thing to do.
Okay. There are rumors that you had upgrades on your airline tickets and they weren't going to give it to you.
Yeah, I think that got blown a little bit out of proportion, that I was demanding first class seats and all this sort of thing, which is, I mean, yeah, I would have loved to have, you know, first class seats, and you know, I honestly think that if you're being presented as a superstar, you should be a superstar, you know. And but the thing is that I felt like, you know, I put my body through a lot as far as TLC matches, ladder matches, and not because I felt pressured, but because I wanted to, and I wanted to be able to continue to do those things when it was asked of me. But in turn, you know, I mean, I said, you know, I've been traveling for 8 years straight without a break. So I was like, I felt like, man, you know, I've been, it was at the point where it's like, you know what, I wanted to have full fare tickets, so it was easy to upgrade, and I didn't ask for business class seats. I asked for full fare Y class seats, which were, yeah, it was denied, and that wasn't the make or break thing in my contract.
Was it more of an appreciation?
Yeah, I felt like I mean a little bit, you know, but I mean they wanted to meet in the middle. You know, they wanted to, where I was and what I wanted, they wanted to meet in the middle of it, and it was, you know, which was fun. Like I said, tickets were not a make or break deal for this. You know what I mean? And it was nowhere even near that. But so, I mean, and all the people were just trying to find little things and make them into an issue to make it seem like, oh, this is really what it was, and it was nothing like that at all. And it was, it would have been nice. Like I said, I felt like I had been there long enough and put my body through a lot, and especially the way that my body was feeling at the time. I was like, man, I started to need to take these 4 and 5 hour flights in the West Coast, a little bit more comfortable, you know, trip. So.
Did they put any pressure on you to sign a contract or anything? There's another rumor like they put a contract in your face. And
yeah, there was. Yeah, there was that happened. I think it was also blown up a little bit. We were in San Francisco, and I was asked to sign that day. And the thing is, I was a little bit on the fence still as far as what I wanted to do. And I had another week left on my contract, and I was just like, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to resign or whether it wasn't. I was just really, I didn't know. And I think if I had another month on my contract, I'd have been thinking about it for another month, because it was like, it really came down to the day I was driving, that my contract was up. We had a SmackDown on a Sunday. We were taping on a Sunday because there was like an overseas tour or something. No, sorry, it was Taboo Tuesday. It was on Tuesday. my contract was up on Monday. So I was driving to the arena on Sunday, so that literally, I was debating until I pulled up to the arena that day in my car about what I was going to do. So it was like, it was a week before that, and they had asked me to, said, we're having a notary here at the building today, we'd like you to sign your contract. And I said, I don't think I can sign it today, and why not? And I said, well, there's some things, and this was true also, I said, there's some things in the contract that I don't really understand. I said, my last contract, it was my fault. I didn't read it through, and I don't want to make that mistake again. I want to know every single thing that's in the contract, and I'd like to read it over word for word with my lawyer, which was true, which is, I actually did do that, and they're like, why? And I was just like, I felt that it was my right to be able to know everything that was in the contract. So I said, that's what I'd like to do. I said, okay, fine, do that, and then send us the contract in this week. I said, okay. So later on that week, I did read it over with my lawyer, and like I said, still debating, and I even had the contract notarized, and I just never handed it in. So I actually still have it. It's in my house.
Can eBay that one day.
Yeah. So.
How much of a factor was TNA in the contract and leaving WWE?
Well, I mean, obviously, I knew that it was there, and it was growing, and it had a national television deal, and I'd been watching it a little bit and stuff like that, and one of my close friends is Scott D'Amore, so I definitely knew that was going to be, if I wanted it to be or whatever. I was pretty positive that would be, an option, and but to be honest with you, the way that I was feeling when I left, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
So you were leaving WWE one way or the other?
Yeah, I was going to leave regardless.
Okay. To
be honest with you, and it was time, and then we had some talks after I left, and the thing was that it really made me feel like I could help, which was important to me, and that I could step in right away and be a factor, and help out and help the guys there, and give some credibility with the exposure that I had and stuff like that. And it was exciting to me, and it was like, kind of invigorating, to make the field wanted, and it was like, I was, talking over with my wife, and I was like, well, why not? It's an hour and 15 minutes down the road from my house. It's, a chance for me to come home every night after work, and not to mention, I can go out and do my own thing, and it's going to leave me plenty of time. The schedule is obviously not nearly as hectic, and it was, like I said, I have other things going on outside the business that I'm pursuing and doing, and there was, plenty of opportunity to do that as well in the interim, and still get my creative juices to flow with TNA to help out. And like I said, I really honestly feel like they got a great future, and they have a lot of future superstars in the business that are ready to break through and to build to that point. So it's exciting. Did
you know that you were getting the belt when you signed with them?
No, I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, I thought that it would. I mean, it's not like they said, if you come here, we'll give you the championship, because I mean, that's not, I mean, even in WWE, of course, I wanted to be the champion. That was my goal, but it wasn't like I deserved to be the champion. I was just like, I wanted to get to the point where I was like, at least have the opportunity to try to get myself in that position, and it was, so it wasn't like a thing where teams like, well, if you come, we promise you the belt, it was like, I didn't even ask, that wasn't even it. It was like, I just wanted to go there and help in any way that I could, and I figured that eventually at some point it would happen, and I didn't think it was going to happen as soon as it did. It surprised me, and but they've been really good there. They treated me well. The Carters have been great to me, and really made me feel welcome, and it's been a good experience so far.
As champion now, TNA of course is starting with a new time slot and everything. Do you feel like any pressure when the ratings come in, that it's on you, or the pay-per-view buy rates?
I don't know. I mean, I think that, let's say the wrestling business is so funny. It's of course those pressures are always there, but I don't feel them necessarily for me. I feel them for the show as a whole. I just want everybody to succeed, and I want the whole show to be successful, and I wanted to, like I said, do my part and help build and help. If anything that I've done can help out anybody, then that's great, and I'm happy about that, and proud of it, and it's But yeah, I think there's some pressure to put a good product on it, especially now with moving to Thursday nights, and to be honest with you, I think we're going in the right direction. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there. It's baby steps, and we don't have the production that WWE has and stuff like that. But it's all a process, and it's all getting there. And we started doing a little bit of house shows here and there, and that'd be one step, and getting another hour will be huge. So it's like that's I think we're headed in the right direction. Definitely, we still got some ways to go, but. I have a feeling that Spike TV seems to be really happy and really behind everything, so there's no reason why we shouldn't get there.
What was it like for you and Edge to hold world titles in different companies at the same time?
It was funny because I wasn't watching the pay-per-view when he won. Somebody called me and told me about it, and I was like, man, that's pretty crazy. So I texted him, and he texted me back and stuff like that. And then we talked a couple days later, and he was just like, man, it'd be crazy if you won the belt for this pay-per-view coming up, and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, man, it'd be really actually weird, wouldn't it? And then, but he lost it actually a little bit just before I got it, so it didn't happen. It was right at the same time. It was insane. Would have been cool. Would have been really cool.
So. Something I forgot to ask before is, what was Vince McMahon's reaction when you told him that you were leaving WWE?
I don't know, I couldn't really read him. It was something where when I talked to John Laurinaitis about it first, and told him, and he was pretty shocked about it, and we had a good conversation, and explained to him, my reasons, and he understood, and was very, we shook hands and stuff like that, and had a good conversation, like I said, and I just asked him, I said, I'd really like to tell Vince, in person, and so, let's get through today, and then, before I leave, I'd really like to talk to him and tell him. So, later on I walked in, and he was there, and he was like, I understand you're leaving. I said, yeah, and I just, same thing, I just said, I just basically wanted to thank him for, I explained to him the reasons why I was leaving, and but also on the flip side of that, I wanted to explain to him that I appreciated everything that the WWE gave to me, because I realized that I wouldn't be what I am today without it, and that's the truth. And especially in the financial situation, to be able to walk away and all those things, and I just wanted to be a man about it, and just like I said, tell him the reasons, but also thank him for the situation that he put me in. And I said we had a pretty good conversation. We shook hands, and that was that. It wasn't, by any means, didn't seem bitter to me or anything like that. I think that, he's probably, I feel maybe a little surprised, even though I don't think he showed it, but I think that he was probably surprised by the whole thing.
Do you think that he was concerned about you going to TNA at all?
I don't think so. I don't think he was.
Do you think he's upset that you ended up going to TNA?
I don't know. I think it should be pretty interesting to know if he was or not, but I don't know. I'm sure he wasn't happy. I don't know.
Okay. What I'm going to do now is go back throughout the interview, and there are a couple questions that I skipped over, and let's go back and I'll ask you those now that we have some time. First of all, you mentioned, of course, you went and trained with Bret Hart. You mentioned that earlier in the interview. Did you ever end up in the dungeon with Stu Hart?
I did, actually. Yeah, we went over to Stu's place to meet Stu, and it was crazy because I'd always seen the shots of the house and pictures of the house and stuff, so to be able to go there, and there was a time Stu was, he was getting up there, and he didn't stand up straight. He kind of walked hunched over and everything like that. So he took us down to the dungeon, and we were like, check it out. So we went down, and it was just like the bare essentials. It was like a canvas on the floor, brick walls, and just there wasn't much to it. It was just like a real, kind of intimidating feeling down there. And then all of a sudden we hear da-dum, 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 da-dum. I turn around, we see Stu coming down the steps, sitting on his butt, doing the step-by-step thing, and he comes down, man, and he starts talking to us and this and that, and telling us about everything, giving us a bunch of stories and stuff, and we went back upstairs, and he followed up, coming back up the same way he came down, and then we ended up talking. We ended up out on the front porch that kind of overlooked, Calgary a little bit, and we were just talking, and he starts telling us about, wrestling, and telling us about moves and this and that, and all of a sudden I'm kind of standing to his right, and he's like, he starts, I see as he's talking, he's not looking at me, but he's reaching for me, so I'm kind of like, put my arm out for him, and he kind of grabbed my arm, and he pulled me in, and then he's like, and then when what you need to do is, and he somehow spun me around. He was showing how this move, and he ended up having me twisted. I had my head up, and he had his chin in my eye socket, and he was pushing his chin in my eye socket. It actually hurt, and I was just like, man. And he just showed us a few different things like that. So it was pretty cool. I actually got to get stretched a little bit by Stu, and he was a nice guy, and I'm really glad I got a chance to meet him. And it was, like I said, he's a legendary character in this business. So it was a legendary person. So it was nice to. It was an honor to meet him. It really was.
How about Bret Hart as a trainer? What was he like?
Well, Bret wasn't really a trainer. He was just having the guys at his house, kind of overseeing it. Leo Burke was training guys at his house. But I think when Bret was home, he would try to come down and watch the guys and give critique and stuff like that. But like I said, when I was out there, he was back on the road. So I maybe saw him twice.
Okay.
And the times that he did come home, he was so tired. He had his wife and his kids and stuff like that. So he was pretty occupied with them. And before I left, I went in and got a chance to thank him for having me out there and shook his hand and stuff. And then we met sometime later, like I said before. He never really, he wasn't really around when I was training. So it was actually Leo Burke at his house doing the bulk of the training.
Okay. Now with the Alliance, you were paired with DDP. What were your thoughts on being teamed with them?
Yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like I was kind of in between, storylines. I didn't really have anything going, and I think Paige was having some problems as far as adapting to the different style, WWE style rather than WCW. And
what are the differences in style?
Well, they were trying to I think that was the point where they were trying to slow it down, tell more stories. Not that he didn't know how to do that, but WCW, it seemed at the end it was just kind of boom, boom, boom. Everything was just like kind of happening. It was just like, there was no. I don't want to say there was no psychology, but there really, at that point, wasn't much.
Yeah.
It was just guys just out doing a bunch of stuff, and I think that I don't even know if it was that, or if it was just that he was just he had a long layoff, was just having a hard time getting back in the groove, which may have been more of the reason. But he was having a hard time, and he brought in the thing with Taker, and it didn't really go according to plan, and they really knew what to do with him. He had some more time off, and he came back with the teeth and the smile thing and all that stuff. And they had we had a match on Heat, and I was the European champion at the time, and said, why don't you work with Paige tonight? Just, we really needed to have a good match. I said, all right. So we went out and we knocked it out of the park, and I'll never forget, because it was a non-title match, and he hit me with a diamond cutter, and he crawled over it as he was covering me. He told me that he loved me, and he was so psyched up after that match. He was like, man, you gave me all my confidence back, and that I could still go and all that stuff. And we became really good friends. We hit it off really good, and we had another string of good matches. We could house show matches, and we ended up, I don't know, somehow I did the smile thing that he does, and it was just so contorted that it was kind of funny, and thought maybe, hey, this is how we maybe get to WrestleMania. And WrestleMania was in my hometown, and I really wanted to be on it, and so it was. That was kind of it was on the plate at that point in time that I was on this little losing streak, and he beat me for the European title, and after that I kind of went into a little bit of a depression. I was on a little bit of a losing streak, and he was going to use, even though I was a heel, he was going to help me. He knew there was a good person inside here somewhere, and he wanted to help me find that person, and eventually he got me. We teamed up, and I won a match, and then it happened so fast. Right after I won the match, I turned on him and beat him up and set up our match. I think it was the next week at WrestleMania, and we had a good match at WrestleMania, and that was that. But not long after that, he hurt his. I think he hurt his neck, and he never came back. But I haven't talked to him actually in a long time. But we, through mutual friends, we're always kind of passing messages along through each other. So I actually should get in touch with him at some point. But he's a nice guy. I always got along well with him.
Cool. Were the WWE regulars kind of wary with all the new WCW and faces coming in?
I don't know. I think that at the point it was
Was there any job security concern?
Yeah, I don't think there was any job security. I think it was just that as far as guys being on the show. There's only so much airtime to go around. Guys might have been a little bit like, man, it's been here and want to be on there. And now these guys are just coming in. They're just throwing them on, and so I don't know. Maybe in that sense a little bit, or maybe even coming into the locker room a little bit and just kind of not really being there, but everyone kind of meshed in pretty. There was a couple, iffy guys there at the start, which they kind of took care of right away, and then everything else is kind of smoothed over, and everybody kind of just fit in pretty nice after that. So.
Now looking at the Un-American gimmick, you worked a program with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
What was Hogan like to work with?
Hogan was cool, man. I liked it. I had some. It was funny because I worked with him a few times, and I'm so proud of the fact that I was a huge Hulk Hogan fan growing up. I had a 6-foot poster of Hulk Hogan in my bedroom, and I couldn't believe when I was punching him and he started hulking up on me. And I was like, it was like surreal. It was like a dream, you know. I was like, man, I've dreamed about this my whole life, getting hulked up on by Hulk Hogan. And then the funny thing is, I never realized is when he's shaking, he's actually saying Hulk up, Hulk up, Hulk up, which was like, I was like, man, that's really pretty cool. And then, boom, and the whole thing, he shot me off, big boot, hit me with the leg drop, still never beat me. There was some interference, and then we ended up winning the match, and then I wrestled him a couple times again after that. But, it's a lot of fun. It's a different electricity when you're in there with a guy like him, or with a guy like Steve Austin, or a guy like The Rock. These guys are just, these larger than life, personas, it's literally electric when you stand in the ring with those guys, and it's a different feeling. So.
Now you also mentioned when you first started with WWE, of course, the business was at its height, 15,000 people every night, and of course there was a decline in the business. What was it like starting out at the top like that, and then seeing that decline happen, and going out there and beginning to see empty seats, and then more and more empty seats?
It's funny because it's like I said, a little spoiled when I came in. Everything was sold out everywhere we went. Everything we touched turned to gold. And it was like it started to decline a little bit, especially after WCW went out of business. I think that lack of competition hurt the overall industry. And ECW was gone, and they had all these things happening. There's like, hey, who's going to show up where? You never know who's going to leave there and show up. And there was all these, there's a person on Nitro going to talk about somebody on Raw going to bury somebody on Nitro. You always tuned in to find these things out. All of a sudden, there wasn't anything like that anymore. There was nothing cutting edge anymore to really be like, man, it's like, So I think that people started to lose a little bit of interest in that respect, where it was like, there was no. That I'll just tune in next week and catch up. There was no, something that couldn't be missed. You know what I mean? And it was like, I think that at that point, it started to go down a little bit, and it was hard, man. It was hard, like I said, to go out there and see all of a sudden half full buildings, and for the most part, TV and pay-per-views were still sellouts, but it got to the point where even that wasn't sold out, but it's starting to come back up here in the last year or two, and things have gotten really good. Even the house show business is really strong. But, and it's funny too, because, a lot of the young guys coming in that weren't there around that time, don't know what it's like when all of a sudden, we'd go somewhere and the place would be sold out. Oh my God, it's sold out. And it's just like, it was like kind of funny to me. It's like, man, they only knew what it was like before, where it was like every single night was sold out, and you get there and there'd be like, you drive in your car and people banging on the car, like I said, it was like being a rock star, It was a really crazy time, and it was hard to swallow, and it was just like, to me, it kind of lit a fire under my ass, like, man, I don't like this, I like it when it's sold out, I like it when the place is full, I wanted to get back there, so, no matter how many people were in there, I never took a night off, that was my philosophy of, if 3,000, only 3,000 people are there, don't punish the 3,000 people that came, make them realize that they're going to go and tell somebody else, hey, you missed an awesome show. Maybe next time 1,000 more people will come, or 2,000 people will come. You can never punish the people that were there. That was my philosophy. Give them everything you got. So that's the attitude I try to go in there with, and I think that's the like I said, it's starting to come back up now. So.
Well, how about any time when you could tell like creative was kind of burned out, or it was time for new writers? Were there any like time periods where that springs to mind?
I think that I said there's only so many like creative wise, there's only so many original things that you can do. You know what I mean? Whereas then you start to rehash things that are kind of the same but different. You know what I mean? And things like that. So I think also when the competition kind of went away, got a little stale, you know what I mean, and it's I don't think it's sort of lack of trying. I really think that I don't think they're purposely trying to put out. We'll see how bad we can make the show suck this week. I don't think that's anybody's intention. You know what I mean? I think everybody wants, as far as TNA or WWE goes, everybody wants to put out an entertaining show. And it's I don't don't know. I mean, it's hard to put a finger on. It really is. You know, I mean, and like I said, you know, I mean, it's hard, especially for guys that are, a lot of guys have ideas and stuff, and will pitch ideas, and nothing, happens with those ideas or whatever, and or well, that's a good idea. We're gonna do that, and then nothing, happens with it, and it's like, like I said, it's just weird. It's such a weird thing. It's a hard thing to explain, but. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say, when did you yourself feel comfortable like giving ideas? Obviously, you're saying earlier in the interview you didn't feel comfortable then. When did you start feeling like you could start giving input?
I just felt like I think that I just always felt like, I always tried to watch guys, like I watched Austin, and watched Taker, and watched guys how they would conduct themselves, and they were always talking. They always had like a different relationship with it. Even if they were talking to Vince in a corner somewhere, or talking to an agent, or talking to somebody, it's like at some point you have to start being a little more hands-on. You have to be more than just content with being along for the ride, and that's the kind of way I saw myself. It's like, hey, squeaky wheel gets the oil. If I don't say anything, maybe it's not going to happen, or maybe that's something I say will be taken and then made into something. You never know. But I tried to be professional about it. It's like, I never felt like I went in and was like, well, you should do this with me, you should do that with me. Blah blah blah. I'm better than this guy. I never did anything like that. I always tried. Like I said, any intention I ever had was not for selfish reasons. It was for the product as a whole. I felt, and it was for the show. And I always, like I said, whether my philosophy was in the ring or backstage or whatever, I always wanted to make sure that I was doing whatever it was to make everything else better. And that was just kind of the philosophy that I had. So, but yeah, you definitely have to. At the time, I was probably there after my probably around the time I started doing maybe the Un-American stuff, when I first really was like, it's not the right time to get my haircut, is when I first kind of maybe took a stand on something, and it was like, and like I said, I wasn't even doing it to be difficult. I never did it in a confrontational manner or anything like that. I tried to be professional about it. And, I just, like I said, I always, what if I had something, idea, I would talk to writers, or talk to Stephanie, or talk to Vince, and try to throw my ideas out. And, like I said, sometimes I'll take an idea and spin it and make it into something else, or sometimes nothing will happen with it, and sometimes I do it exactly the way you do it, but it's like, I always felt that I had the best intentions with my ideas, so it was like not like I was trying to slip one over on anybody or anything like that.
Okay. What did you think of Trish Stratus being paired with you?
It was funny, it was one of those things where it's like I was in a place where, like I said, I started to get my my singles feet, and the thing is, it was a touchy thing, because, to be honest, I've never been, personally, I've never been the fan of having a valet. To me, it's like, or being alive with it's a little touchy, because when you go out there and it's like, you're in the ring and you're busting your ass, taking all those bumps, and people are staring at the girl and chanting puppies or whatever it is they're chanting, and it's taken away from, the other things, and it's like I said, it's not really, I just felt that I had the personality where I didn't need something extra, that was just my philosophy on it. And it was like, when I did it, I tried, we did it, to the best of our abilities, but unfortunately, I got injured at that point in time, and I think that too, with the way that it went, that we couldn't really get any higher than what we did with it, which was, screwing over Jericho, because, we did the whole love triangle build-up, where it started with myself and Lita and Jericho and Trish, and then we kind of built from there and went into the Trish and Chris and myself, and then did the swerve at the end of the WrestleMania, and it was like, how do you get higher than that? You know what I mean? It's like basically split up a couple and steal the girl from your best friend. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the. And then when I got hurt, when I was coming back, I think she evolved more into like to a heel character, and it was just like, I just don't think that the writers saw that, because they called me before I came back, so I don't think we're going to do much more with it, because we don't know how much higher we can get than what you already did. And I was like, that's cool with me. So it's kind of how we just but it was really like a short run. It really, I mean, it was just really that one thing. So it was really, I mean, it was what it was. I thought it was a great storyline. I thought all the stuff was pretty intriguing and interesting and different. And I said, yeah, so it wasn't that long.
Okay. What do you think of the whole ECW One Night Stand and being a part of that?
It was cool, you know. The funny thing is, I never got to see an ECW show.
Really?
You know, yeah. I mean, I saw a couple on tape and things like that, but I never was at a live ECW event. So when they, you know, I was asked to go and to be there and to be able to thing, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty interesting to check this thing out. You know, just like see it in their element, and you know, it was like it was crazy. You know, I went there and the crowd was crazy, and just kind of watching it from up there, and it was a different style, but it was like, you know, the fans I think got what they came to see, you know, and it was like the chants and the energy in the building was just, it was pretty cool to you know, to sit back there and watch it as a fan, you know, and as a fan of the industry, as a fan of wrestling as a whole. So it was really kind of cool to see it in that firsthand rather than having to watch it on videotape. It was a really good experience.
Mm-hmm. How about you were in that Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania? What was that match like for you? And was it more apprehensive just because you're coming off the injury and everything?
Nope. Actually, no. It was funny because my first match back was a ladder match against Jericho, and it was after doing a few of them, you know, you kind of learn the ins and outs of you know, trying. Well, I mean, there's no really real way to be safe, but to be safer, and so they you know you know, I just never went in there with the mind frame of trying to be cautious or anything like that, because to me, when you try to do that, that's when you get hurt. You know, you just got to go out there, especially WrestleMania. You know, the biggest, it was in Los Angeles, huge crowd, and you know, you just got to go out there. And the guys that were involved, I mean, I don't think that match could have been any better. To be honest with you, I thought it was really good, and it was really entertaining, and all the guys really meshed well and told a good story and built really good. And I mean, Ben was awesome, and it's on the arm, like, he's awesome. So it was it was a good match. I thought everybody did their part really good. I'm really proud of it.
What are your feelings on Triple H?
Triple H, well, he's you know, I don't know. I mean, I never really got really close with Hunter. You know, he's I mean, we're always friendly, but he was always friendly to me. But I mean, that's pretty much as far as it went. You know, I was never, like I said, never really tight with him. We never called each other on the phone or anything like that. So it was like, you know, I mean, we were cordial and joked around a little bit and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think in his position, I mean, I think he gets a, you know, a bad rap sometimes. Some of it's warranted, I think. Some maybe not. But
what do you think is warranted and what not warranted?
You know, I don't know. Play the fifth one.
Is there pretty much like you know, this is the first time we've ever really talked for more than 5 minutes, and I've always heard you're a very down-to-earth, relaxed guy, which I found to be true, and you've pretty much enjoyed, you know, working with everybody. Is there anybody that you didn't enjoy working with?
I didn't enjoy working with. Let me see. I'm trying to think. It's funny that you think that I would after all the years and all that. There's not one person that pops in my head that I'm trying to think here. Oh, I never ranked. This isn't even a big deal, but I remember I had probably the worst match of my career with S.A. Rios. And it was just like, we were in Boston, and we had this match, and of course, everything had to be move for move, because he didn't speak a word of English. It's like, everything had to be worked out. So we go out there, and it's the second spot of the match. He came off the ropes, and he's just staring at me like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, oh, fuck. So something got fucked up, and we were all over the place, and I was so embarrassed to be a wrestler that night. It was like the worst match I've ever had in my life, the worst thing I've ever felt. And I remember coming back and got yelled at by the agent, and it was just like, it was just so bad, and it was like, God, I felt so bad after. I felt so bad, and I've never done this before, and I never did it since. I went up. I actually went. I couldn't even wait till after the show. I went up into the the grill position before you go out through the curtain, and Vince was sitting up there. As I actually went up during one of the commercial breaks and tapped him on the shoulder, and I could tell he was really fucking pissed off at me, and I was just like, I said I couldn't even wait to the show. I was so embarrassed. And I went up and I apologized to him, and I was like, "That I give you my word that will never ever happen again." And he kind of went, "Well, it's okay, the language barrier, it's it's not I said it's not an excuse." I said, "Language barrier, not." I said that was a piece of shit, and I said I'm embarrassed, and I guarantee that will never ever happen as long as I'm here. I said I appreciate it, and then that was it. I let it go after that. I just need to get that off my chest, but. After that, anytime I saw it, I was like, please don't let my name be beside us. Because I don't think they put us back in the ring together again after that anyway, but it was fucking brutal.
How about your acting career? Anything that you can tell us about what's going on with that?
Yeah, actually, no, I'm really, excited about acting. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and something I've always wanted to do as long as I've been wanting to wrestle. And it was, which I think, I'm an entertainer, as much as a wrestler, kind of goes hand in hand. And I just never knew how to kind of get into it. I kind of, through wrestling, got a couple, opportunities and just trying to take advantage of them. And I ended up just filming a movie in March in Toronto. It's not a huge role by any means, but it was a nice role, and it's going to be a really big movie. It's starring Clive Owen, Paul Giamatti, and Monica Bellucci, so it's got a huge cast and 2 Oscar nominees. And I went up there and just I did it, and it was like a great experience, and it's just a really exciting thing that it's something I've always wanted to do, and something I always felt I could do very well. And I actually got a chance, and from that, I actually just signed to do my second movie that I'm going to be starting at some point this summer, and it's a little smaller movie but a bigger role, which is really exciting for me and challenging. So it's I'm just looking forward to it, and just doing some more things like that. And it's like any athlete, what I mean. Your shelf life is only so long, so it'd be nice to have other options in life, also to other avenues to try and go down after it's all said and done.
Cool. And to close it out, are there any funny road or rib stories that spring to mind?
Any story like
any?
I'll tell you a funny story. We were in Richmond, Virginia, and I don't know why this one just popped in my head, but it did. And it's like I said, I kind of get along with. I'm one of those guys that always kind of gets along with everybody. But it's it was the Dudleys and Joey Mercury and his partner at the time.
Nitro?
No, it was before him. It was
Joey Matthews? No, I mean
Joey Matthews,
Christian York.
Christian York. Joey Matthews, Christian York. They were there doing some dark matches and stuff like that, and they'd work with the Dudleys and ECW and stuff like that. And I'm trying to remember how exactly it went, but somehow Bubba had this idea because I had gotten him. I can't remember how I got him, but I got him like the week before or something, so he wanted to get me back. So it was geez, how did it start? I knew they were working. They got heat or something. They were working a match, and I remember what it was. They weren't in a match together. Bubba came up to me and he said, "How well do you know those guys?" I saw Joey came up and talked. He was asking me for advice and stuff, and he was setting it all up, right? And so then Bubba saw it and he goes, "How well do you know those guys?" I said, "Oh, I know them enough. They're nice guys. They're good kids. I think they got a lot of talent." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You ever see their fucking finish?" I was like, "No, what is it?" He's like, "Yeah, it's really close to 3D." I said, "Oh, is that the move the guy was telling me about?" Okay, he was telling me about this move. I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, I think they're going to use it in their match." He goes, "Oh, fucking little punk." I was like, "So what?" He goes, I said, "Don't do any of that. So let me just go tell him. Maybe you should ask you about it first. It might be a good idea." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, do that. Yeah, do that." So I went and I So I talked to Joey and I was like, hey man, I said, that move, I said, Bubba's a little touchy about the 3D thing. He said, maybe you want to go and clear it with him and just let him know you're doing it and, see if it's cool or whatever. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then they went off and talked and Joey kind of came storming out of the room and I went up and said, hey man, what happened? He was that fat piece of shit. And I said, that guy's always fucking with me ever since we were back in ECW. He's a fucking asshole. I'm gonna punch him right in the fucking face next time. I was like, hey dude, I said, listen, I said, first of all, I said, you don't have a job here. I said, if you want to have one, that's probably not the best avenue to go down. And he's like, I said, you don't want to come back starting shit with, especially with guys that, that are on the show. And he's like, yeah, no, that fucking guy, he's in a big mouth, blah, blah, blah. I said, just come down, just don't do it. I said, you don't need one move and make the match work, whatever. He's like, yeah. So Bubba came walking out, and then he's like, Bubba said something to him as he was walking by, and he goes, fuck you fat piece of shit. And I went, like this, and Bubba, what'd you say? And then they they lunged at each other like they were about to fight. And of course, I jumped in between. I didn't realize they had a whole bunch of people like in the loop on it, so they're all sitting there watching. I jumped, hey guys, come on! I jumped in between. Of course, everybody popped, and I turned around, and everyone's laughing and clapping and stuff like that. And here I am, these two are laughing. They start hugging me like, you bastards. And I was like, now you're not going to get a job. We'll make sure I bury it. He ended up getting one, so it was good for him. But he was ripping before he even got there. It was pretty funny. So that's the first one that kind of pops out in my head. There was tons of stuff like that.
Cool. Anything to say to the fans in closing?
No, man. Just I said, just everything. I thank the fans for the support, whether I was in WWE or TNA, working for Ring of Honor, whatever other bookings I'm gonna take. But I definitely would not be where I am. I know it's cliche or whatever, but it's the truth. I wouldn't be where I am without wrestling fans. They're wrestling fans are a special breed. They know what they want. So I'm just looking forward to get out there, having fun, and performing. So
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.